Hey, this is Zepp, and on behalf of the guys, Stru, Boomer, and Lukey, we want to thank you for downloading and listening to our podcast of The Ticket Outdoors, brought to you by Mills Fleet Farm. And remember, when nothing's going right, just go fishing.
Summer fun begins at Mills Fleet Farm. For thrills on the water, jump on a full-throttle Enforcer towable. On sale, $99.99. Save on Michelin tires. Buy 4, get a $70 MasterCard reward card. Bring home the good stuff for your pets. Get a $10 gift card when you buy select sizes of Science Diet dog or cat food. And stock up on Pine Tree Farm's suet cakes. They're just 69 cents each at Mills Fleet Farm.
It's time for Ticket Outdoors on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
A lot of people would be panicking right now that they should be on, but we don't. We're total professionals.
We're trained at this.
In fact, I'm going to turn everybody's mic back off. I like this, man. This is a good tune.
Well, you got to come to Hollahan's with me to see the Walking Wounded, even though Joe Giuliano's not there right now. He's going to come back. They're trying to get him back just to play guitar because he's not going to be able to sing for maybe ever. But
and the Walking Wounded, they rotate musicians.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Different sit-in guys up there at Hollahan's on, when is that, Thursday nights?
Yeah, Thursday nights in White Bear Lake, but they're all over the place, these
Is that
guys.
Hula Hands?
It's Hollahan's.
Hollahan's.
H-O-L-L.
I was thinking of the chain Hula Hands.
Little hole in the wall on 3rd Street, I think it is, in White Bear Lake. A nice little pub. But if you go downtown White Bear Lake any night of the week darn near, there's great music.
Yeah.
It's a great spot to hang out.
Kind of a happening spot for the Strumeister.
It's a nice spot to hang. A lot of old ladies out there, so when Diana should text, Drew, man, is, you never know. You just never know. I wouldn't do that to me, so I wouldn't do that.
There's a lot of pills there, huh?
A lot of pills there. So you guys had a great day. This is Boomer. I'm Steve Straczynski. Zepp's the big shot over there, and old man Boomer's not here because he's taking care of a neighbor.
Yeah, the neighbor. Dad called me on the way into studio, and Mark and I were flying down the highway from the T-Pro on our trip to Osakis, which we'll get to later, but the old man can't make it. Kind of feel a little naked. The old man's been here. How many broadcasts have we done now, guys?
Almost probably about 20, I bet.
So now that we're on our 19th broadcast.
Are we talking about good ones or all together?
Yeah.
No, we've done over, I don't know, Stu, you got all excited about 100, and that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Probably 150.
140 or so, but whatever. But I tell you what, and I tell you, in all those broadcasts, I've only seen you pissed off, Zepp, maybe 3 times.
Yeah, it's not bad for me.
It usually involves when the commercials aren't working. For our listeners out there, Brian Zepp is awesome when you get to see him in studio. He's just like the guy, he's we get to live vicariously through Zepp after studio when we share stories, but the only thing that can turn that grin into an upside down frown is when the commercials. I mean, we've seen him come out of studio before.
I don't like technical glitches.
You are a professional. That's all there is to it.
In every form and fashion of what you do, Zepp.
I don't like technical glitches. Tell me that our small talk moves on from this topic, please. That's true. What'd you do this week?
My highlight is I broke down and took my gorgeous wife, Diana, to Jackpot Junction and spent a few bucks and bought a couple of tickets and got a hotel room down there and saw Heart.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun, wasn't it, Lukey?
Totally.
Lukey's looking at me with a funny look on his face because I didn't spend the money. Lukey kind of took Diana and me down to Jackpot Junction. But I'll tell you what, I'd never seen Heart. I know all of the music.
Yeah.
And it's Nancy Wilson or the Wilson sisters.
Ann and Nancy Wilson. Nancy does all the singing.
I'll tell you what, the sister is attractive now. She must have been hot 30 years ago.
Nancy. She's still, an attractive lady, good. But she... Yeah, smoking hot. But Ann in her day, but she's,
I heard she's gained a few, but she can sing. And I'll tell you, I can't believe she's 65 years old and she still sings with so much power, still has the range. It is unbelievable how she can do that.
Just coming out with her first ever solo album, all by herself. No Heart, just Ann Wilson.
Good stuff. No, that was a lot. It was interesting down there. I think Jackpot Junction screwed up, and Lukey will probably back me up on this. I understand they almost sold out this place. There's like 5,000 seats in this amphitheater. Beautiful night. We're in the 9th or 10th row, and there might have been 2,000 people there. It was a gorgeous night. My understanding is they sold a whole bunch more tickets, but the Jackpot Junction also had about 3,000 American Legion old farts there, having some kind of convention, and every room in the entire within 20 miles was all booked up. You couldn't find a room.
I'm an American Legion member.
Yes, I'm proud of it. And you're an old fart.
I am.
But anyway, so a lot of people are not going to drive from the Twin Cities and drive down there and head home at midnight.
Yeah, it's about an hour. River Falls?
It's 2 hours.
Really?
No, this is Jack. It's in Morton, Minnesota. It's 115 minutes from my house.
Was it a big casino?
150 miles rather. Yeah. But they had every room within the 25 miles was filled with the Legions, and they had a big convention.
Yeah.
And
it was. I bet that was raging until about 10 p.m.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
Breakfast opened up at 3:30 a.m.
Yeah, right.
So that was my highlights.
Happy hour at noon.
That was my highlights. How about yours? What did you guys do?
You know what? I spent the week at ICAST, so it actually took me a few days to kind of recover from that. I tell you what a blessed and humble experience to be down there with all those great companies, media folks, retailers, manufacturers. You get ICAST is where you get to preview all of the cool stuff that's going to come out in the fishing industry for next year, from GoPro, from the major lure and crankbait companies, electronic companies. And, we were down there for the week, and honestly, I think I'm getting a little older and slowing down, guys, because I spent 2 days on the water there at Lake Toho. And then 3 days at the expo booth with Sonar Phone, and thank you those guys for having me there. And then you're mingling, and then you're in the booth till about 5 p.m. and then you're at dinner, and then you're at the after dinner, and then you're at the after dinner party, and then you get up and do it. And man, I don't know, Zep. It literally took me till about Monday. It took me about 3 days, and then when we landed and we were getting ready to go to bed on Friday night, then my phone goes off at 12:30. And all of a sudden there was an alarm for a tornado warning.
Yeah.
So then my butt had to haul back down to the basement and then last till about 1 a.m., which was okay. And then I went back upstairs and went to bed.
Yeah, we Terry trained down the hall. They lost about half the orchard out there. That thing, they believe it touched down. Either that or the straight line winds out there. But yeah, it took about half that orchard. I remember that night. We all do. I was kind of out watching it. It got breezy in St. Paul, but we're tucked in.
You were up at 12:32?
Well, I was up doing work with single mothers.
Mark and I, like I said, we were down in Morton, and it stormed down there a little bit on Friday night. And I didn't realize till I got back to the Twin Cities because I had an appointment on the northwest corner of Bald Eagle Lake near White Bear Lake.
I know it.
I was just 2 days ago and drove up there. I couldn't believe how many. There had to be 300 trees down, big trees. So something came through, and I'll tell you what, the Twin Cities probably fortunate that there wasn't a lot more damage.
Yeah. And White Bear was without power Saturday morning when I came into work. A lot of folks were calling in, and they didn't get their power back until later in the afternoon on Saturday.
White Bear was like the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
With no power.
Yeah. No power. Yeah. My gosh.
So now you had a couple of nice days. You went fishing again, right?
Yeah. I did go fishing again. I had a great weekend. I did the bikini contest over at the car.
We saw that,
deal.
yeah.
That was fun.
I didn't get to see any of those pictures.
Well, I'll show you after the show here.
Okay.
And then today, I went fishing. I got a buddy out in Litchfield, got a boat, and we decided to do the Meet Me Halfway. Actually, it wasn't just Meet Me Halfway and pick a spot. He was kind of excited about independence. I hope Adam's not going to get pissed I'm talking about it on the air, but we got over there in the weed lines and did some bass fishing today. Not great right away, but by about 9:30, we were throwing back foot-long bass.
Fun.
Did you know what was so awesome is when I went into studio, and for our audience, Zepp was playing the songs on KQRS in there, and I went in to give him a big hug and talk about the big gills that Luke and I got into.
Yeah, some beauties.
And Zepp looks at me and he goes, man, I got into some nice largies and smallies today, Boomer. We were working these deep weed lines because the fish were going in there, and I'm like, brother, I just want to give you a big freaking hug right now. It was just awesome.
It was a proud dad.
He is a proud dad.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all Adam. He's the man. I mean, he talks the talk, and I started with some cranks. I was just searching out there, and he was hitting them with spinners when we came back, so we just started running spinner baits and went a little bit deeper, probably about 18, 20 feet deep, and right along those weed lines, and just started hitting them. Started hitting some. The biggest smallie I ever caught, probably at about 14 inches. We weren't weighing anything, we were measuring it, but it had to be a 2.5-pound smallie at least. And I think, and then he caught a 20-inch largemouth.
It's a big fish.
Yeah, I was up
now
there.
Now you're talking about
18.
fishing with spinner baits. You were using all plastics the entire time. You were not using no live bait. Right?
Yeah, we went out to kind of a mud flat area and tried to find a point out there, and Texas rigged some big plastics, and didn't have as much luck doing that. But yeah, no, we didn't use any live bait today.
Okay, so when you were using
were you
spinners,
looking for the cabbage?
looking for the cabbage out of
when
the
you were
mud
using,
flap.
now teach me now, because Boomer's not teaching me anything anymore, but when you were using your spinner bases, that's what you were using when you threw it out there and let it drop 10, 12, 14 feet, you said, then started bringing it back?
Yeah,
okay.
right. Yeah, you want to let it get down there a little bit. It was not a particularly warm morning, but it was a nice day. I mean, it wasn't, it's going to be about 90 this weekend.
Yeah.
You'll have a challenge this weekend, I think, to probably get them bite. But it was just a beautiful morning.
Did the color matter at all, what you were using?
I just went, I ran the same spinner. Once they start hitting, you don't change it. And I tried a few different cranks this morning, some different cranks, different colors, different lengths. Didn't really seem to matter. Got a couple of top bites, but nothing really hit. And then with spinner, I'm trying to remember what it was called, what brand it was, but it was, it was a gold, a silver spoon, and then it was a white and a lime green jig.
Yeah, that's
a fairly popular color this time of year for
it was the first one I grabbed out of there. I think it was I saw what he was throwing was about the same. I think he had a pink on his, so I pitched out the green and just started hitting them. It was just a lot of fun. Gosh,
that's why
bass.
Boomer and guys like our guest Mike Rance. Is it Mike Rates, right? Mike Rates.
Mike Rates.
Yeah, him and Tony, all these guys, that's why they're more successful than you and I, Zep, because they've got 5, 10, 15 rods.
Yeah.
I've got one. I think changing lures is just too much work. You got it just takes time,
Hey, speaking of guys that know the profession, I want to give a shout out to Brian Brosdahl and Tony Roach. I ran into those guys at ICAST and Pat Hamilton. Yeah. Some of those guys have been guests of the show or contributed to the Lake Report. So it was kind of nice to see some Minnesota folks at ICAST because I was surrounded by the bass community.
Oh, yeah.
You said the word walleye and you were like in the minority.
Right. Now, when you get invited down to a place like that, I know that's an invitation kind of deal, right? Because ICAST is a big, big deal. Are you forking up the entire tab? I mean, you paying for your own flight, your hotel, and everything down there? No?
Well, it depends. That really kind of depends on what your relationship is down there. I mean, there's tournament anglers that go down there, and I'm not sure who's forking the bill to go down there. But if you're working for a booth or whatnot, that's really depends on what your relationship is with the vendor and your partner at that time.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Sorry, I was looking at our guest list. Bill's going to be on. We get to talk duck hunting.
And being a captain.
I had such a great day. I am dragging tail a little bit because I was up early. But we've been talking about fishing for a long time.
Right.
It's still pretty good. We're, probably looking at the dog days here in the next couple weeks to a month until it cools off again a little bit. Although I know some guys out in, where the heck were they? And they said they were getting some muskie last weekend already. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about duck hunting a little bit too.
Yeah, maybe go for some geese on the Mississippi this year again.
I'm going to get a goose stamp so that I can shoot at some geese this year.
Sometimes we've got to talk about. I was trying to get a hold of Don Pereira from the Minnesota DNR Fisheries.
Yeah.
And we just didn't hook up back and forth. I wanted him on tonight to talk about, here comes Mille Lacs again, back in the news.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe August 7th or so, maybe shutting down the walleyes. What are your thoughts about that? You want to talk about that when you come back? Or maybe Bill Lebansky or somebody else can talk about that as well.
I have a couple opinions on that, Mille Lacs. But the other cool thing about having Bill on, Zep, is he's about 2 days away from officially being a captain on the Mississippi.
But is he going to have a boat? Is he going to get his own boat?
Well, I'm hoping he has a boat because he said that he was going to take us out and guarantee us a limit of ducks. So, Bill, if you're listening, we just put you on the spot.
Well, we're going to put him on the spot when we have him on in the 8 o'clock hour. Mike Heinen's going to be on, Stru's son.
Yeah, talking about prairie dog hunting. He's back from Wyoming, and he, he said he's shooting things 400 yards, which I think is a big lie, but we're going to find out.
400 yards? Well, it can be done. It can be done. You can hit him out there at 400.
The other thing that's pretty cool is Mark and I just spent the day with Lake Osakis Guide Service, and you guys know that I always find a lake that kind of gets in my scope that's just been a wheelhouse.
You've been excited about Osakis.
Yeah, it's, they've had a really good walleye bite out there. And, we went out there in the middle of the day, and we're going to talk about it, but we got into some big gills. So even when you get into these dog days of summer, there's a different type of species of fish that can hit. And I think we'll talk about it, but Mark actually caught a 1 pound gill, and so did myself. And I think that's the biggest he's ever caught. So that was kind of fun seeing Mark reel that thing.
I wonder, today, after a week like we've had, and maybe the big storms that kind of came through the metro. Now you guys were at Osakis.
Yeah.
Does that affect the fish? Because it was today's the best day I've had in like the last couple of years.
Yeah, you know what? We got into a really good bite later, and I think you read so much about barometric pressure and what it can do, but sometimes, Zepp, I think it's just the more time that you have a hook in the water, the better chance you have of a fish biting it. And I think something was just in the wind today that we all got pretty lucky.
Yeah, right. I mean, we just sort of found where the bass were moving getting out of their little nests where they're almost uncatchable, and they were going in those weed lines trying to feed, and just you just got in the lunch line right there and you couldn't miss.
But I did, there is a trend of how your bite was and how our bite was. The fish that we were catching were on the weed lines. So that has to tell you something about how the sun was shining through and those predator fish were hiding in the weed lines. And most of the time when you find a group of panfish, if you find the crappies or the bluegills, those big bass are not going to be far behind, and the big pike aren't as well.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about on the show tonight. We're not done with fishing yet. Going to talk smallmouth on the Mississippi. Mike Rates when we come back with Ticket Outdoors.
Gio and Jones getting you to work every weekday morning until 8. This is Greg Giannotti. You're listening to Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
The Saturday night game of the week, St. Paul's Saints baseball on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Charging hard, he leaves his feet in time to make the catch.
Our broadcast start with Live from Lowertown with Pete Wagner and Sean Aronson. We talk Saints, baseball, and more starting at 5 p.m. Then the Saints pregame show starts at 6:45 p.m., followed by play-by-play from Sean.
Drilled high and deep left field, well hit, way back, goodbye!
Every Saturday Saints home game on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
It's always hunting season at Mills Fleet Farm. The Wild Game Innovations Cloak 7 Trail Camera Combo is on sale, $79.99. Pearson treats make a great snack. Get 10 for just $6. Keep water soft with Diamond Crystal Zeo tabs. 40 pounds, just $4.49. Gear up for school with the Via Athletic Shoes for the entire family. They're 25% off. Yep, it's time. Back to school time at Mills Fleet Farm.
Love it. This is the 105 The Ticket weather from Nature's Fury. Tonight, some clear skies, low of around 65. Tomorrow, probably a repeat of today, except maybe a tick warmer, a high of 87. Going to be sunny and nice, though. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, looking at highs in the high 80s all the way through. Not much rain in the forecast either. Maybe a scattered thunderstorm on Friday. This weather update is brought to you by Nature's Fury. You can find Nature's Fury at your local Cub Foods and select holiday stores.
If you love the outdoors, then you probably have a truck that you love too. Custom Truck Accessories can help protect your truck from the rigors of outdoor activities. They have custom seat covers and floor mats to protect against the mud and dirt from the field. Toppers and tonneau covers to protect your gear. If you're a truck guy, you'll appreciate the knowledge and experience of the Custom Truck Accessories crew. Visit CustomTruckAccess.com or stop by their store to see what a difference being family-owned can make for you.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
I was going to pull Zepp and let the music run there for a minute and tease our audience. I had the pleasure of being out in the Illumicraft today, and it just handled Osakis well. So let's just thank the folks at Illumicraft for allowing us to talk hunting and fishing at the Ticket Outdoors. Thanks to the fine folks down in St. Peter and Lakes Trading Company. We talked about we're going to have Bill Labansky on September 1st, I think is early teal for Wisconsin, and then we're going to have an intensive harvest coming up for Minnesota.
Yeah.
So if you need to fine-tune your gun or buy a new gun, go visit the folks at Lakes Trading Company. And then we always chat about our friends at Custom Truck and Accessories. You can pimp out your truck for fishing season, hunting season. Tell them the Ticket Outdoors said hello. And I think on Wednesday nights they have
their big mud truck and truck
mud
swap.
truck. Yeah.
And the big part swap up there, and that's happening right now on this beautiful evening. If you want to turn 105 on in the truck and head on up there. Also want to thank Mills Fleet Farm for sponsoring the show. If you need new tires before heading out on your next road trip, Fleet Farms carries all the best brands, Michelin, BF Goodrich, Cooper Roadrunner, and a lot more. And don't forget, I want to thank all our listeners that have helped us to be at this 2-hour format and do about 150 broadcasts. And don't forget to follow us at Facebook.com/The Ticket Outdoors.
Yeah, we are supporting our sponsor. I just picked up a hose for the gas tank on my pontoon a couple of days back. My son Mike bought a rifle from Lakes Trading Company in Forest Lake. We got people supporting us, supporting our sponsors. A lot of fun.
You know, and it's really neat when we're on Osakis too, and there's quite a few folks that maybe don't get to listen to us live on the radio, but are picking it up on our Fleet Farm podcast. So that's always nice to run into those folks at the landing as well. If you're headed out of town or you got some friends you think that might like the show out of town, 105theticket.com. You can stream the show anywhere on the planet. Anywhere.
Well, anywhere they have internet on the planet.
Yeah.
105 The Ticket.
Or catch our replay. What is it, Sunday mornings from 6 to 8?
That's it.
All right. So we got a big guest for our listeners tonight. This is a gentleman that I've had a pleasure to fish with a few times. And in fact, we talked about working the deep weed lines. He taught me a new tactic of using a live bait rig or a Lindy rig to catch smallies. Smallmouth bass with a live bait rig up in northern Minnesota last year, and we just had a blast. His name is Mike Rates, or Mike Rates Outdoors. He works at Clam. He's also a big guide at Leisure Outdoor Adventures. But I thought he'd be a great guest to have on tonight because we have an amazing fish. We have amazing fisheries all over this state, but not a lot of people think about the Mississippi as being a great fishery when you drive over it, but it holds a ton of fish, and this little guy right here is a river rat. So Mike Rates, welcome to the Ticket Outdoors.
Thanks, guys.
Mike, thanks for being on, man. Yeah, when people think about we always think about bottom feeders, sturgeon and cats and stuff like that. But
Brian Clawwitter stuff, you bet.
Yeah, right. The big ugly fish down on the bottom, but there's more out there, obviously, in the Mississippi than that.
Oh, there's a ton out in the Mississippi River. You have walleyes, you have panfish, you have smallmouth, and some areas you have largemouth, more in the southern part of Minnesota. Where we are, we don't see much of that. Once in a while you get them, more into the couple setbacks that we have up there. But there is lake sturgeon. I mean, there's a ton of fish, catfish.
Why do you think anglers sometimes just avoid the river? Because it's the river?
Yeah, it's, everybody thinks of the river as it's this big, scary place.
Yeah.
And
logs out there. And don't go in the water.
Yep, exactly.
Suck you under.
Yep. You just got to know where you're going. We have a couple areas that we do have to stay out of. My boat is not meant for some of the areas that people can get in, like with their River Pros, stuff like that. Boats that can sit, 4 inches into the water and be able to go. But I have a lot of mileage that I can cover. Last weekend we decided, let's go on an adventure. Let's go find some new waters. We traveled 30 miles up the river.
So I think about it as it's dirty water, too. And you think, well, what am I going to fish it with? It's one thing to fish off the bottom. It's another thing to just, get something down in there, jigging in there. I mean, how are they going to even see the thing?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the big thing. For the most part, the river is actually not crazy dirty. When you get those rains, like last night I went out, it's dirty. It's muddy right now. Fish are not as active, but for the most part, the water clarity is not too bad. The big thing is fishing darker baits, blacks or, just dark colors, browns, greens, stuff like that. So you can, these fish can see it from a distance. A lot of time they'll follow it. They'll chase it.
Like you mentioned, you went 30 miles upriver. 30 miles from where?
From Sartell.
Okay.
So that's my home area.
Yeah.
Basically, I fish above the Sartell Dam, and then I also fish below the Sartell Dam, above the St. Cloud Dam. I have small sections that I fish, and in between those spots, it's not good territory for me to go to, but there's plenty of fishing in those areas, plenty of good area to fish. Tons of structure.
The only time I was ever arrested in my life was in Sartell.
We're going to have to hear that story.
Oh, yeah,
sometime.
you'll hear it. You'll hear it.
So, Mike, a lot of the times when we're talking fishing on the Ticket Outdoors or in the lake report that we do at the end of the show, we talk about, playing the wind, the weed lines, what type of fish are spawning at certain times where we're going to fish, what type of presentation we're going to throw, how aggressive we're going to be with that presentation. But honestly, I don't think in the last 2 years in a lake report I've ever talked about the Mississippi. So knowing all of that, how you play the wind-blown side of the lake and that, does all that play true to the Mississippi, or just kind of walk our listeners through how do you approach fishing the Mississippi during this time of year?
When I look at the Mississippi River compared to a lake, it's a whole new animal. You've got current involved. You've got obviously water clarity. Depth, structure's completely different. You're not fishing break lines, you are, but you're fishing structure. You're fishing brush piles, you're fishing rocks, eddies, stuff like that. It's a whole new animal, and I have to kind of regain what I'm doing when I go back to a lake, because we don't have any mapping on the areas of the river I fish, so a lot of it's with your eyes. You're looking at the structure. It makes you become a better fisherman because you're not focusing on your depth finder constantly.
So Mike, you talked about playing with your eyes. It kind of reminds me of fishing some of the flooded prairie lands. So if you're fishing Devil's Lake, or you're fishing out in South Dakota like Wabae or Enemy or Bitter, a lot of the times on lake reports I talk about, okay, they are mapped and I'm looking at structure below me. But some of the times I'll look at and I'll see where the hills are, and I'll see where they're kind of coming down and where that plateau's in. And then I'll try to position the Alumacraft to say, you know what, there might be a ridge line that's kind of running through here. Or in Devil's Lake, you're looking for an old a farm road that runs through that might be a change of structure. So is that what you're telling our audience?
Exactly. It's you're not using your electronics anymore. You're using your eyes. You're looking at the shoreline structure itself. You know, if you see a steep hill up there, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a fast break. I'm going to look for that kind of stuff out there. I'm not going to look for too much of a flat. You know, the big thing is you want to find those break lines, and you want to find that current break. You know, that's where I really say watching with your eyes, because you can see where the break in the current. The river's all about slack water. Trying to find slack, because that's where those fish are going to be hanging out.
Explain to our listeners slack water.
Slack water is basically, you know, you've got your normal river current itself, but you have little areas on the shoreline that actually kind of dip in a little bit, and that's where that slack water, it's almost like you're on a lake. There's no current to it. It's standing still. Fish will hang out in that and watch the bait come by. They're ambushed.
Those are recreational areas, like when we're out in the St. Croix. I boat the St. Croix often, and you look for those slack areas, those kind of bays, we even call them, although it's not technically a bay, where the water slows down. There's no current in there. You can get in and do a little skiing and wakeboard and that sort of stuff. Those are good areas for fishing. Yeah, because those are where we're normally pissing off the anglers.
Yep, definitely.
They're tucked in over there as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, Mike, you talked about navigating through your boat, but there's plenty of times up in Elk River where I've driven over the Mississippi there, and I see quite a bunch of shore fishing. Can you talk a little bit about strategies for shore fishing the Mississippi?
Shore fishing the Mississippi, the big thing to doing that is finding those little cuts coming into places, or a small little setback. And what I mean by a setback is it's an area off of the main river itself. You know, it's this little, you could call it a small little tiny bay off of the river where the slack is gone. 9 times out of 10, it's going to produce a lot of fish. Boulders are huge for smallmouth out there. That's going to hold a lot of fish. I can guarantee most people, if you find a nice boulder sitting on the shoreline, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a smallmouth.
They want to huddle around that. What are you throwing out there for smallmouth?
You know, I throw a variety of baits. And some people tell me I'm crazy when I say this, but at times, at this time of the year, I'm going to start to throw crappie baits. Small little 1/32 ounce jig heads with plastic. And the big thing is we're getting into those dog days of summer. I was out last night, and, you know, I couldn't buy a fish on the big baits. I had a couple, you saw them chase it right up to the boat, but I wasn't buying bites. Went to the 32 ounce jig, and it was lights out the rest of the night.
Wow, that's cool.
You know, Mike, when you're fishing the Mississippi, there's a whole bunch of different varieties of fish out there, right? We talked about there's big cats, there's walleyes, probably some nice pike, you got drum, sheephead. Your rod and reel, I guess I'm trying to get to is what kind of tackle are you using? Because you might be targeting smallie, but you could get into a big catfish, right? And you don't want to be trying to bring that thing in with a medium light rod. So do you kind of buff up on your tackle just in case you do get into one of those piggy fish?
You know, not really. I do, but I don't. I have some rods where I run 4-pound tests on that rod. Like when I run my crappie stuff, I run 4-pound tests. The big thing out there is having a good rod and reel with drag. Now, if I get into a 30-pound cat on 4-pound test, chances are I'm not going to get
him. But it's fun. Who cares,
it is.
right?
It's a heck of a lot of fun. Yeah. But I'm using, you know, for the most part, I am using a lot bigger baits, a lot bigger line. You know, I'm doubling up on my knots. I'm not just doing a regular knot. I'm going to a uni knot. I want stuff that's strong because you're pulling that stuff through brush, too. And you're constantly fraying your line. And at any time you can get bit, you can lose a fish like that, you know.
You know, I've never spent much time in the Mississippi, but I did a lot of river fishing on the Cloquet River up out of Brimson. Many years I'd go canoeing and 3 or 4 day trips from Brimson down to Island Lake in Minnesota. And the Cloquet River is a smaller river, of course, but what I like about it is every 5-10 minutes, there's a different corner. There's different anticipation. Yeah. Your eyes change, and it's exciting because you think something's going to be happening around the corner. I think river fishing is pretty exciting.
It is. It's extremely exciting. There's always new territory to cover. There's always new structure. It's a new challenge every single day. The bite changes daily. It's not, you know, where you can go out to the lake and catch one day, but you can come out the next day. It's a completely different bite than what
All right, the Mississippi River is the Mississippi River. There's smallies where you're going up in northern Minnesota, the Sartell area. Mm-hmm. Why are there not small? Are there smallies down here in the river?
Definitely, there's smallies throughout.
Why aren't there wallies, smallies down here as compared to northern Minnesota in lakes?
You know, and there's smallmouth in lakes, but the answer to that is really, I think it's just kind of areas that it runs through, different creeks and stuff that come through. I think that makes the big difference in here. We got quite a few good lakes down here in the metro and into the, my St. Cloud area that have great smallmouth fishing.
Okay.
They're everywhere. It's just trying to find them, finding the lakes that have majority of them, stuff like that.
So, Mike, we got about 1 minute, so I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The second question is going to be how they can contact you at Mike Rates Outdoors, so if they have more questions about fishing the Mississippi. But the first one is, give our listeners some community spots that they could go to fish the Mississippi. It doesn't have to be some of your honey holes, but where they could go from shore if they want to try to fish in the Mississippi for smallies.
Definitely. Up in Sartell where I'm at, Gordon's Bridge, big area. That's one of the setbacks there. Very easy to get to. You can get it right off the road. You can catch fish. Little Rock, right off of Highway 10 there up in St. Cloud, kind of in between that and Rice. That's got a great opportunity to catch a lot of crappies, catfish, stuff like that under bridges. And then also Wilson side, which is down in St. Cloud. It's right next to St. Cloud Cathedral. It's Wilson Park. That's where I spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
So much shore fishing there. I mean, it's lined up all the way up and down. You can get just about anywhere out there.
What's your biggest smallie?
My biggest smallie is probably was last year, and it was 22 1/4 inches.
Oh, geez. All right, never mind. Guess I won't be bragging about myself. I was just bragging about catching
12
like
inches,
a 14.
yeah.
No, I got a 14.
Okay.
Guess I'm not going to brag about that.
Good
that's
for you.
bigger than the big mounds we were catching today, but that's a pretty special fish, a 22 inch smallmouth.
It is.
That's
truly
bigger than that football that was deflated, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, right.
Boy, yeah.
And, Mike, how do folks get a hold of you if they want to learn more about smallmouth bass fishing or get a chance to fish with the Ratesmeister?
You can get a hold of us at Leisure Outdoor Adventures. Jason Fried will get you a trip booked with me, either here up in Walker. Go to my Facebook page, Mike Rates Outdoors. Otherwise, get a hold of me at mikesrates@hotmail.com. And,
That's Rates,
we can get fishing.
RAETZ, Mike Rates. Mike, hey, thanks for I'm heading out to the river on Sunday. I was going to talk to you about that as well, Boomer. Guess who's got a boat this weekend?
The Zapster, baby.
It's a pontoon, but hey, unlike Stru, I'll take poles out of my pontoon.
I always think of that song from Little Big Town when people say pontoon. You remember that
It's a great song.
Oh, I know.
Great song.
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember that one or not.
I'm the only pole on our pontoon.
Ticket Outdoors on 105 The Ticket. From pro to college to high school, we've got it all covered.
Pretty much everybody has questions as to whether or not you belong out there, including the people scratching your checks, including the guys you play with.
Passionate sports talk on your sports station, 105 The Ticket.
The Ticket Outdoors is proud to be a partner with Lakes Trading Company. Why? Because they kick. That's why. Guns to buy, guns to shoot, guns to rent, and the best prices on ammo around. We love Lakes Trading Company because they eat, sleep, and breathe guns just like us. Looking to get a permit to carry class or renew your old permit? Don't be disappointed by a cut rate instructor. Lakes Trading Company has top-notch instructors and on-site range and meals provided. Lakes Trading Company, off 8th Street in Forest Lake, or online at lakestradingco.com.
John Thielen here, host of Fish Ed TV. When I'm looking for that go-to bait for walleye fishing throughout the summer months, I look no further than the Lindy Lil Guy. The Lil Guy offers a cross between a Lindy rig, a crawler harness, and a crankbait. Its hard-floating body runs like a crankbait in front of a tandem hook crawler harness. The Lil Guy is equally deadly at Lindy rig and spinner speeds, or pulled aggressively at crankbait speed. The Lindy Lil Guy is available in 11 distinct color patterns and can be found at your favorite retailer or at lindyfishingtackle.com.
It's always hunting season at Mills Fleet Farm. The Wild Game Innovations Cloak 7 Trail Camera Combo is on sale, $79.99. Pearson Treats make a great snack. Get 10 for just $6. Keep water soft with Diamond Crystal Zeo tabs. 40 pounds, just $4.49. Gear up for school with the Via Athletic Shoes for the entire family. They're 25% off. Yep, it's time. Back to school time at Mills Fleet Farm.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
We rerun the program every Sunday morning from 6 to 8, 105theticket.com. If you want to stream it or grab the podcast in the next couple of days. Thanks again to Mike Rates. Talking about fishing on the Mississippi. It's something, I'm going to be getting out on the St. Croix a bit this weekend, and I'm going to do some fishing, and I'm going to look for some of that slack water that he talks about. There's plenty of it down on the St. Croix, actually, but I haven't scouted it too much, but I do love fishing the river. Like Stru was talking about, I grew up fishing rivers. We don't have a lot of lakes in South Dakota, but we've got the James River and a Wahi. We've got the big Mighty Mo up there. So river fishing was something I did a lot more of growing up, and I like being on rivers. I mean, they bring their own set of challenges.
You know, the only real river fishing I've ever done is up there on the Rainy when I go up to chase the walleyes or the sturgeon when it's open. And a lot of what he was saying made kind of perfect sense, Zep, to me, because, you know, we were always looking for kind of those deeper pockets for those sturgeon.
You're actually looking for little lakes on the river.
Yeah, and that's where it seems that those big predator fish were waiting. So as the forage base was getting blown down the river, if you could get right on the front edge of those deep pockets is where we had a lot of luck with walleyes earlier this spring. So, hey, you know, it's a different animal, river fishing versus big lakes, so always learning, right?
Well, I think this young man who's next might be able to tell us a little bit about river fishing, I think.
Sure, you want to introduce him?
Sean Parrott. Sean, are you there, young man?
Yeah, I'm here.
Young man who's 55 years old. I think he just turned 55, a week or two ago, right? Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
You got the day wrong, but you're going in the right direction.
Welcome to the Ticket Outdoors. Hey, Sean's been on our show one or two times before. He's editor of the North Shore Press. He's been doing that since 2003. He's up in Grand Marais. How are things up in Grand Marais?
Everything is great in Grand Marais.
Tell us what's going on.
Beautiful weather. The North Shore is just packed with people having fun.
Tell us about you like to specialize in brook trout. Is that your number one fish? If you could fish one fish the rest of your life, what would it be?
That's a tough one to answer, but it would be one of three fish. It would probably be brook trout, steelhead, or, I don't know, some other trout species.
All right.
Walleye's coming a little bit, not too far behind.
And most of you enjoy fly fishing more than anything, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm not by any means a fly fishing purist. Starting here, as soon as I can, I'll be trolling on Lake Superior. Do a lot of walleye fishing as well, but my first love is definitely fly fishing.
You know, Sean, Boomer here. Thanks for joining us at the Ticket Outdoors. I love to chase walleyes up here in the Alumacraft, but you know, when I used to live down in Missouri and had some friends there on the Red River, I learned a lot about fly fishing about 15 years ago. And most of the fly fishing we did on the Red or the White River involved, you know, just walking down the stream and, you know, just, you know, casting, and you were using an indicator jig or an indicator light or a light or a piece of yarn, and just going down the river and walking a couple miles and enjoying it. Now, you talked about you love to chase brook trout out there in Grand Marais. Is it the same? Are you in a boat, or how do you chase those brook trout and all those type of different trout species up north?
Well, I chase them different ways. A lot of our trout fishing up here is on the DNR's stocked trout lakes, the ones that are stocked with stream trout, and that can be pretty good fishing. There's I don't know, several dozen trout lakes in Cook County where I live, so you've got a lot to choose from. We also have hundreds of miles of trout streams. Some of those are a little too narrow and brushy for fly fishing, but many of them are, awfully good. Another thing I like to do is find beaver ponds or big pools in streams. Those are usually good places to find brook trout. And then, like I say, I fish Lake Superior as well, but I don't do as much fly fishing on Lake Superior.
Let me tell you a little bit about Sean Parrish's background. He's been up in Grand Marais most of his life. He's he graduated from college in northern Minnesota. I think he went to Duluth. Am I correct, Sean?
Yep, I went to UMD.
And his dream is always to be an outdoor writer and make a living doing it, and very few people can. And Sean is pretty blessed to be able to do so. But many, many years ago, he was with Fins and Feathers, went to Northern Wilds Magazine, Minnesota Sportsman, 1987, went down to Atlanta, I think, for I don't know how many years, went down to Atlanta. And
5 months.
Yeah.
Let's get that clear.
There
5
you go.
months.
There you go. But it didn't take you long to come back to back to northern Minnesota. Now, I think one of your trips coming up here, I think next week, is you're going to Bozeman, Montana. Tell us what's happening in Bozeman.
Well, the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership is having a media summit out there to address public lands issues. And it's a 3-day event held in Bozeman, and will include some presentations from basically national experts. They're pulling in people from all over the country. And then there's also a morning of fly fishing attached with this as well.
So, I'm guessing that's going to happen.
Yeah. So I'm real interested in going. I live in a county that's over 90% public land. The town I have my business in is just voted the coolest small town in America, certainly because it's surrounded by public land. And here back earlier this year, half of Congress voted to sell off our public lands. And I guess I just take that as more than a slap in the face. It's more a declaration of war. And, I just want to know what other people are thinking about that.
Will this be your first time going to the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership? And how did that start, and when did that start?
I can't give you exact details on that. They've been around now probably at least 10 years. I'd say probably longer. And they have emerged over that time frame as pretty much the national leaders for sportsmen on the issues that occur in Washington, D.C., which are many. So a lot of the groups that we're familiar with, such as Pheasants Forever, actually is one of the sponsors of this conference, Trout Unlimited, other groups that are very much sportsmen's conservation groups work very closely with the TCRP and basically fight for our issues in the halls of Congress.
So you talk about, Sean, fighting for the issues, and the issues are many. What are going to be some of the major hot topics that you're going there to be discussed?
Well, I guess the big one that I'm interested in is I have two big issues. I think one is, what does this mean when half of your elected officials decide that they want to just sell off your public lands? I mean, anybody... a lot of us in Minnesota, we deer hunt on public land. You go out west and hunt elk. That's going to happen on public land. You go trout fishing out west. That's on public land. Go in the boundary waters. That's public land. I mean, you really want to see the boundary waters sold off?
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So that's one issue. The other issue is, and I think we've all seen it, is the rapid transformation of the agricultural landscape into something that's not very hunter-friendly, I guess would be the way to put it. I think we've seen pheasant populations plummet. Iowa has gone from being a top pheasant-producing state to, and almost ran. And even eastern South Dakota, I'm hearing, is really rapidly going downhill fast. We're seeing great declines in water quality due to, more intensive agriculture, more ditching, more tiling. And I want to know what's happening on the national level, what people are saying about that. So that's another reason I'm going.
Sean, when you talked about the egg, the first thing I thought about in my head is I do a lot of duck hunting out in western Minnesota, and I think about all of the sloughs and the little potholes out there that just used to be awesome for nesting ducks, and now they've been tiled away. And then you talk about some of the declining pheasant populations. I think of, all the ditches, Zepp, that are now just getting plowed away and turned into agriculture because of the price of crop.
Yeah.
And so when you guys get together and you talk about that, do you guys come up with action plans on how you're going to come back to Congress? I mean, is there a call to action, or is it...
I don't know. I'm curious to see. That's one question that I have. I mean, certainly, I'm not part of any action plan. I'm a writer. I write a weekly column for Minnesota Outdoor News, and got to really hand it to the folks at Outdoor News. They pretty much let me say whatever I want. I've rarely gotten in trouble with editor Rob Drieslein over what I've written. Once in a while, but
right.
So I'm going more to see, I'm just seeing more and more that I'm putting a harder edge on my conservation writing because, as hunters and fishermen, we're losing ground, and we're losing what we love and what we live for, our way of life. And I guess I'm not going to go down without a fight.
Attaboy.
Is there anything that you guys are talking about? When I think about the pheasant population here in Minnesota, Zepp, and it hasn't been what it's been a few years ago, like what you guys get to enjoy in South Dakota, I think of declining CRP, right? Mm-hmm. CRP continues to decline. Is that something that's going to be discussed there as well, Sean?
I don't
and
know
then
if that's on the agenda, but there will certainly be people there I can talk to that are very knowledgeable on that topic. And, a lot of what happens at a conference like this is the people that you meet and the networking you're able to do. And you have people coming in from, both the conservation organizations, from the agencies like the Fish and Wildlife Service, state agencies. You get a lot of different perspectives and a lot of people that are on the same page, that are thinking about this stuff, and like myself, are hunters and anglers, and are concerned and want to make a positive difference.
Sean, have you ever been to Bozeman before?
I spent a night in Bozeman, and I think it was in 2011.
It's gorgeous.
It's a great town.
It's gorgeous.
It's not quite Grand Marais, but it's a great town.
I think you're biased. So tell me now, you're going to Bozeman for the TRCP, and I don't think a whole lot of people know what it all is involved. from what you're telling us, I believe, is that the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership brings average hunters and fishermen into discussions and the decision-making process. Am I correct?
Correct.
That's good. So you got your input is going to be very, very influential to the people who make these decisions.
Hopefully, and hopefully I can come back and give good information to my readers.
Yeah.
So that they can vote.
We talk a lot about that process all the time on this show because we talk to Tony Roach and Jiggy and all these guys out there and Dave Gens and whatnot. And a lot of they're upset because they don't have an opportunity to get involved and help the DNR make decisions because they're on the front lines all the time like you guys are. It makes sense that you should be involved in the decision-making process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I guess I've chosen in my life to give up some of my hunting and fishing time in order to, work for the greater good of hunting and fishing. I don't want to sound altruistic or anything about it. I think there are people that do it to a far greater degree than me. David Zentner in Duluth with the Isaac Walton League spends more time in the field at, I believe, age 80 now than virtually anybody I know. And he's still there in the trenches. He's in St. Paul all the time. He's wherever he needs to be and at the meetings that he needs to attend and really working to make a difference.
Sean Parrish with outdoor editor for NorthshorePress.com and frequent contributor to Outdoor News. Let's take a little break here just for a couple of minutes. We'll come back and talk more with Sean.
Make sure you tune in me, Brandon Tierney, along with my partner, Ziggy Barber, weekday mornings at 8. Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, only on 105, The Ticket.
3 wide, here they come. It's Kevin Harvick on the inside of this group. It's Stewart on the outside. David Reagan's in the middle of it. And so is Kurt Busch. Wow.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series returns to the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Brickyard 400. Tune in Sunday, starting at 1:30 p.m.
Checker flag right here. Big wreck in your mirror. Big wreck in your mirror. Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Your home for NASCAR in the Twin Cities is Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
It's always hunting season at Mills Fleet Farm. The Wild Game Innovations Cloak 7 Trail Camera Combo is on sale, $79.99. Pearson Treats make a great snack. Get 10 for just $6. Keep waters soft with Diamond Crystal Zeo tabs. 40 pounds, just $4.49. Gear up for school with the Via athletic shoes for the entire family. They're 25% off. Yep, it's time. Back to school time at Mills Fleet Farm.
Steve Straczynski here of Coldwell Banker Burnett. It's time, my friend. If you're a Ticket Outdoors fan, then you're also a fan of hunting and fishing. I've got 29 years in real estate licensed in both Minnesota and Wisconsin, and I'll consider it a privilege to help you find that perfect lake home or the 40-acre piece of heaven that's hiding a Boone and Crockett right now. Hey, check me out on Facebook or email stru@stru.com. It's your money. Thanks. And thanks for having fun with us on the Ticket Outdoors.
Midsummer in Minnesota means one thing, being out in the water to enjoy the beautiful weather and 10,000 lakes with our family and friends. This is Boomer with the Ticket Outdoors, and my friends and family have been fortunate enough to spend awesome time on the water with my T-Pro 195. What a perfect fishing boat made right here in Minnesota. This boat is made for the serious fishermen and comfortable enough for the whole family. If you want to learn more about the T-Pro series of boats and the whole lineup from Alumacraft Boats, visit alumacraft.com, and thanks for listening to the Ticket Outdoors.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
All right, and we're back. You know, like I said, the commercial breaks, we don't stop the show. We continue the interview, and then we all come scrambling back. Sean Parrish, Northern Wilds Media. If you're up there on the North Shore, we'd love to grab them when I'm up there at Grand Marais, and I stop along the little stores, Toffee or wherever. Northern Wilds, North Shore, Highway 61 is another one. And then you'll find them as a frequent contributor to Outdoor News, I'm of which I'm also a subscriber, and I love your articles, and you talk about being able to write freely for OutdoorNews.com. There are several contributors that do and have that latitude to really speak their minds.
I would imagine he can speak his mind because he's been writing for the Outdoor News since 1993. Has anyone been writing longer than you for the Outdoor News?
I think Steve Kearney.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Steve, he's a friend of our show, too, Sean.
And another guy that likes to call it like it is.
You should ask Steve when he started writing. I'd be curious to know. He's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, we get along. We give him as much sass as anybody. He's a good man.
Yeah, he is.
Hey, to the listeners who did not hear the conversation going during our break, of course, we're talking about what Sean Parrish is going to be doing after the show, and he mentioned to me earlier today that he's going to be going out. I thought he loves mushroom hunting, and the kind of mushrooms that you get are called
chanterelles.
Now, are chanterelles? I thought morels were the big thing. Chanterelles are as good, right?
Yeah, I would say they're as good as a morel, and a morel fan will argue with me, but you can't go wrong with either one, I guess would be the way to put it. And like a morel, they're really easy to identify. They're a big, kind of trumpet-shaped yellow mushroom. And they basically, in this part of the world, they come up at this time of year. I usually find them around mid-July.
Oh, it just even sounds good.
And how do you like to prepare them?
Really simply, just sauteed in garlic and butter.
Oh, and a cold beer. Boy, I tell you what, that just sounds so good. You know, I've never gone morel mushroom hunting, but a good friend of mine and I were golfing in Wisconsin about 3 weeks ago, and I hit one of my erratic shots, and it was way off the green down in the bottoms, and we go down there, we found some morel mushrooms. Bob took them home, cleaned them up, cut them up. He said they were they're $50 a pound they pay for those things.
Yeah, they're if you like mushrooms, there's nothing better.
Yeah, good.
You know, speaking of
tonight, I'm going to dry fly fish for walleyes, which is pretty interesting as well.
And that's the reason I called you, because I read your article, and Boomer is the fishing person on this show, obviously. But when you talked about dry fly fishing for walleyes, I think it's kind of maybe not innovative, but I think it is unique, and I think it's very, very interesting, and I want to hear all about it. How did you end up beginning to try to fish for walleyes dry fly?
I've caught them, at this time of year we have the hatch of the really large Hexagenia mayflies, and I think virtually anybody that fishes in Minnesota is aware of the mayfly hatch.
They're a mess.
Down on the Mississippi River, they have to plow them off the streets and that sort of thing. But anyways, we get a good hatch up here that usually lasts 2-3 weeks. And I primarily fish trout during the hatch because pretty much every trout in the lake will come up for those mayflies, and it makes for some pretty fun fishing. But one night I decided to try a local lake for lake whitefish, which also come up for the hatch, and they can be 3-4 pounds or bigger. And what I found is I couldn't catch the whitefish. They were pretty wary, and they were staying away from my boat. And right at dark, as I was going back into the boat landing, I was going through this really shallow bay, like 2 feet of water. And I noticed there were fish rising around me, and I thought, I wonder what they are. So I stopped and started fishing, and by golly, they were walleyes. And the first night I caught 2 and lost one before it got so dark. I had like 5 minutes of fishing before it was too dark to fish. So I went back a few more nights, and I've just had fun catching walleyes that are running anywhere from 13, 14 inches up to 19 inches.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Are you using the same type of fly that you would then for a whitefish or a trout that you're catching these walleyes on?
Yeah. I'm just using a big dry fly that's got a bucktail wing and tail and just a heavily hackled body. It's a really simple fly that I tie myself. I've got some other similar really simple flies that I tie. And then the other thing I do is pinch down the barb on the hook because generally during the hatch you only have... Sometimes it'll only last 20 minutes, and it's right at dark, so you really want to make the most of your time. So I pinch down the barbs on my hook, so it's really easy to remove the fly from the fish and be able to just keep fishing.
It's a good tip.
Now, Sean, are you just sight fishing these walleyes then, or is there any type of indicator, or are you just basically waiting to see the fish surface and then you set the hook?
Pretty much, yeah. What I do is... the first night I had my boat, which is a Lund Alaskan, and then I went back with my canoe because I was right off the boat landing, so I didn't really need the boat. And what I do is I just watch for fish rising, and then if I have to move the canoe into position, I do so, and then I just cast where I see fish rising, and generally one will come up and strike the fly.
Sean, when Stru and I were talking before the show, and he mentioned that you were going to be on, and, he knows how excited I get about walleye fishing and that you were using a dry fly to catch these walleyes, I originally defaulted to thinking to springtime, right, guys, when those walleyes will run in the shallow, into the rocks, and they're getting ready to spawn. Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried that approach, Sean?
I have caught walleyes on like woolly bugger type flies earlier in the year, and I've got to say I've just never devoted the effort to it. I'm sure you could do it. I've just never put as much effort into it as I ought to, I guess. I was fishing about a month ago with Bob Nasby. I don't know if you guys ever had him on the show.
We have had him on. I'm trying to think when, but we have had him on, yes.
Okay. Well,
yes.
I think arguably the top fly fisherman in Minnesota. And anyways, I was fishing with a jig and a leech, and Bob being Bob was fishing with flies, and I caught walleyes and he didn't. So I would say bait won out in that particular situation.
It often does.
Wow. And when you were fishing for those walleyes in the spring, and you talked about a woolly bugger, is that basically like a dry fly? Is that a surface lure as well, or is that going down?
It's more like a marabou jig would be the closest comparison. It's a weighted fly. It sinks really easily, and you basically twitch it in the same way you do a jig.
Now, Sean, when I remember fly fishing the Little Red River for brookies and rainbows and brown trout with our dry flies, I remember that sometimes we'd it was like a gel or whatnot that would help that fly stay suspended as well as the indicator. Do you do that as well?
Yeah, I usually put some sort of they call it floatant. And generally the stuff I use now is kind of like chapstick. Couldn't even tell you what brand it is. I've had it so long. But I put a little bit of that on the fly, and then the other thing I do after I catch a fish, like I said, you don't have a lot of time with this hatch I'm fishing. I'll immediately rinse the fly off in the water and really rub it down and get the fish slime out of it. And then I really snap it hard in the air a few times to dry it off. And then pretty much I've got, since I've got the floatant on it, it just floats as well as it did prior to catching a fish.
And for our listeners out there, when I learned to fly fish, you're not using the reel, right? You're stripping the line down with your left hand if you're right-handed like I am. Is that what you're doing for these walleyes? So you're basically bringing that walleye in by hand with the line?
Depends on the size of the fish. If I'm fishing steelhead in the spring, a big, hard-fighting fish that runs and is, in current, I always fight the fish off the reel.
Okay.
And I'm getting a 15, 16-inch walleye. I've caught a million walleyes in my life, like most Minnesotans, and I can basically just apply some pressure on the rod and strip the line in. I probably have less than 30 feet of line out. So I just strip it in with my left hand and, hold the rod with my right hand. And the other thing that you should do, that's a really good tip for people, is run the fly line through your forefinger of your right hand and strip with your left hand. But that gives you a lot more control over the line than over the fish.
So we talked about you catching trout with your fly rod and reel, walleyes. What about bass or pike or muskies?
Haven't caught a muskie. I've caught pike. A lot of times I don't like to catch pike because you lose flies in the process a lot of times, and I tie my own flies, and it just gets irritating when you get bit off.
Can't use a steel leader.
Do it. Caught a lot of bass on flies, and fished a special regulations lake outside of Grand Marais here a couple summers ago, Two Island Lake. And I was with a friend of mine who played guide for me, and I had a phenomenal night with little balsa poppers, just little panfish poppers, catching smallmouth that were running probably up to almost 20 inches.
Whoa. Wow. With a fly rod.
Yeah. And it was pretty much one after the other. It was kind of like fishing on the flats or something. They were up in the shallows feeding, and it's just punching out long casts and, see a fish feeding and figure out what direction it was going and then put a cast ahead of it.
It's quite an art, yeah.
Yeah. So, Sean, I asked Mike Rates, who was on earlier, who was our guru of fishing the Mississippi for smallies, and I'm going to ask you the same question for our listeners who are thinking about fly fishing up in Grand Marais. Do you have some common areas that they could Google or look into if they're interested in doing it?
It's hard to Google information, I've found. The best thing to do is to get a hold of, there's a couple of books of lake maps available for the state. You can get a lot of good information out of those. You can get a lot of information out of, the DNR's Lake Finder site. And then the other thing I would say is that Generally speaking, if you're going to Cook County, fish are pretty slow growing here. We've got the longest, coldest winters in the state. So a lot of times, accessible lakes, the smallmouth end up stunted. So, I know lakes where I could take you and you can catch all the 8-inch smallmouth bass you want until you go crazy, because that's eventually what will happen to you. But to find the bigger bass, you want to find the larger lakes, the lakes that have special regulations that don't allow you to keep bass under or over 11 inches. So some of those fish get up into that bigger size range. And then also lakes that are even one portage into the boundary waters. You're definitely going to find a higher quality fish just getting a little bit away from the road.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, we're talking to Sean Parrish of Northern Wilds Media up in Grand Marais, and I'm going to ask you a question that's very, very dear to your heart. How's Rainey doing?
Okay, Rainey is...
and tell people who Rainey is.
I'll tell them who Rainey is. Rainey is... well, I'll start it where I should. I lost my spouse last fall to cancer.
Yeah, Victoria, right? Yeah.
Yep, she said, get a puppy. So I did, back in April. So Rainey is a male yellow lab, and he's a little over 5 months old now. And he joins me and my 11-year-old yellow lab, Tanner. And we've been having a lot of fun with the little guy.
Now, you guys, aren't you planning on going to Montana?
Yeah, I was planning to go out to Montana in September and fly fish. And the drought conditions are so bad across the west now that they're already starting to shut down streams to fishing during the daytime and whatnot.
Wow.
So I'm thinking that's not going to get any better as summer progresses. So what I'm thinking instead, and I just have been kind of ruminating over this, but since I have 2 yellow labs and the old guy's a doggone good pheasant hunter, I may just spend some time wandering around in October, a little more time than I normally do, looking for pheasants. And I may try Montana, which I've never hunted before.
Well, that's one of the best things about living in this part of the world is that you can change your criteria in your schedule based on weather and patterns of life, whatever, because there's a whole lot of hunting and fishing to do up here. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, and I don't know that people appreciate that sometimes, but when you live here in the upper Midwest, and especially in Minnesota, you've got everything from the Great Lakes to the Rocky Mountains basically within a day's drive of you.
Yeah. Hey, now you talked about Montana. Last question here, you talked about Montana and the weather issues they're having there. How healthy are we where you are as far as hunting and fishing as compared to 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago?
Meaning, is there as much hunting and fishing?
Yeah, the strength, the consistency, the numbers, the size, all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Oh, of the game or of the...
Yeah, of the game.
Our deer herd is down somewhat now. I had really good deer hunting last fall, so I don't know, make of that what you will. Other people didn't.
Yeah.
I'm hearing good things about grouse numbers this year. I think fishing, by and large, is holding up pretty well. I think one change that has occurred, we were talking about brook trout earlier, is the DNR has cut back somewhat on stocking our stocked trout lakes. So lakes that were once stocked every year are now stocked every other year. So the fishing is maybe not as good as it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. All right.
But by and large, there's still a lot of people doing it, and they have a lot of success. I mean, I live in a place that's really blessed with a lot of...
Yeah, you live in heaven. Every day waking up for you is a good thing, I'll tell you. All right, go ahead, Zepper.
Oh, I was just going to kind of close it out here. Thank you, Sean. NorthernWildsMedia.com. If you care about northern Minnesota, if you love to visit it, if you want to conserve it, visit NorthernWildsMedia.com. Sean's got a bunch of great books on there, too, that he works with some local photographers up there as well. And they're beautiful books. And North Shore Highway 61, Northern Wild, some tabloids that you should grab when you're up there visiting, and go check it out. And I was going to ask you, Sean, as a subscriber to Outdoor News, when can we look for an article on your TRCP meeting?
I would say probably 2 weeks from now.
A couple of weeks from now, you'll have something in there?
As one of my outdoor writer friends, Gord Ellis from Thunder Bay, puts it, you've always got to feed the beast. And I write a weekly column, and you guys know what this is all about. It's, you're always looking for something to have on your show, and I'm always looking for something in my column. And I think you'll probably see a few columns over the course of the next year that'll have, begun with my attending this conference.
All right, we'll call it like it is. And, Sean, thanks for spending some time again with us on Ticket Outdoors.
Sure.
We'll look forward to next time. Thanks.
We'll talk to you.
Go catch some walleyes, my friend.
I'm chomping at the bit.
Good for you.
This is Zach Levine of the Minnesota Timberwolves. You're listening to Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
This is a special notice to consumers who owe back taxes to the IRS. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing during the decline in the U.S. economy, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. In some cases, this may even result in back taxes being reduced. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. To ensure your financial stability during this decline in the economy, take down this number, 800-248-5707. That's 248-5707. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and can't afford to pay them back, there's no need to fear anymore. You may qualify for a program that could settle your delinquent tax problems and in some cases save you money. For your free information and to see if you qualify, call Community Tax at 800-248-5707. That's 800-248-5707. 800-248-5707.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 877-735-7485 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 877-735-7485 to take your call now. Call 877-735-7485. That's 877-735-7485. Again, 877-735-7485.
From the Mills Fleet Farm Studios, WGDX Lakeville, WRXP Cambridge, WGBZ Eden Prairie, a Cumulus station.
Sports Radio 105, The Ticket. I think most of us can relate to taking those 40-pound bags of rock water softener salt and having them lug them down to our water softener in our basements. Well, that's about how much dirt and dander and dust you get in your house in a year. And in the summertime, what's outside gets inside, and what you don't know is the best form of filtering for the air quality in your home is your carpet. And of course, Zero Res Carpet Care is the best place to go to get rid of the dust, the dander, all the allergens. And right now, they're giving you an opportunity to get your air ducts cleaned for just $20 a vent. Starting at $20 a vent and getting your carpet cleaned, 3 rooms pre-treated, cleaned, and sanitized, starting at $159. That's a 1-2 punch for clean air inside your house for the rest of this summer from Zero Res Carpet Care. Call them now, 952-ZEROREZ, backward or forward. It spells the same, and make sure you ask them for the Sports Radio 105, The Ticket Summer Special.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
And then when my blue ox, Babe, would get thirsty, I would dig her a lake.
Oh, that's right.
Just telling a good old story. Sean Parrish, it's really fun to have guys like that on the air. Sean Parrish.
He's talking about he's written books. He's with
many books.
Northern Wild Media up in Grand Marais.
Right. I wasn't sure if he had read was the one that wrote it, but I'm pretty sure Superior Shores is one of my coffee table books. I think that's Sean's, and I forget who the illustrator was in it. And it's an illustrator, not a photographer.
Yeah.
It's just one of my very favorite books.
He shared with me a couple of books that someone else had written. I forget the name of the author right now, but I'm halfway through one book that I absolutely love. And we talked about this a few months back. It's called $2 in a Can of Gas.
Yeah.
About one of the first people lived up in Grand Marais in the 30s in a Model A. And the stories are really, really fun.
I read an excerpt from it, and you're right. It's a Model A journey through, is it just northern Minnesota?
Yeah.
You know, you have somebody eloquent like Sean Parrish on, but we're going to elevate it just a little bit more. Our next guest, probably one of the premier radio guests working in America today. And boy, you know what? I'm just going to introduce him and listen to him go.
Yeah, we'll just sit down and let him tell the stories, all right?
Hey, Mike, are you with us?
I'm here.
I hate to do that to you, buddy. No, it's Mike
Yeah.
Heinen?
Mike Heinen is my stepson because I was too goddamn cheap to adopt him.
Right, exactly.
I'm taking that child support as long as I can.
Now, I've met Mike, but he's your son. So, Stu, go ahead and give us a
my son Mike, who I love and hate at the same time. He knows why, but we get along well. He loves the outdoors, and he's funny. He's a great storyteller. He loves to fish. Boomer's had a chance to take him up to Devil's Lake and
Red Lake. We went to Upper Red Lake.
Bowstring.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning on the show that every time Stu shows up for a duck hunt or a trap shoot or a turkey hunt or whatever, he's using Mike's gear.
Yeah. That's true. I had to use his hunting gear. Well, we'll talk
just
more
about every time.
Almost every time.
Mike, don't let him give you too much crap for our listeners out there. I did have the privilege of a couple fishing trips. Mike, it's Boomer. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. You, Boomer, it's good to hear from you.
Yeah, it's good to hear from you. And I just want to say on air that you outfished your old man several times up on Devils and Red and Bowstring. So don't let your dad give you too much crap on air.
Hey, by the way, Mike, you have to love your old man. I just got us a free smallmouth bass fishing trip September 5th. So mark it in your book, all right?
That's what I love about you, Dad.
I know, yeah. You're a cheap son of a bitch like I am. I know that. Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you, here's what we have Mike on. Mike, of course, loves the outdoors. He doesn't like being in the limelight like his old man does. But Mike had an opportunity last week to take his kids and with two other couples and their kids out west, and they all had what do you have, a trailer? What do you have? Some kind of a motorhome you got from Fractional Toys, right?
Yeah, I got it was a pull-behind travel trailer, they call it. I got from Rick over at Fractional Toys. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was everything a guy needs, sink, bathroom, and air conditioning, you know.
So just while we're plugging Fractional Toys, guess where I got the boat for this weekend?
FractionalToys.com.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Zep is going to go on the St. Croix River with a pontoon. He's got some...
Well, I've got the Sea Ray 240 speedboat on Saturday. I have the pontoon on Sunday.
There's
no trolling motor on that, is there?
Last week, Zep was the judge of a bikini contest, and he's going to have some of those young ladies on the river Sunday with him. So,
and camo bikinis, right, Zep?
One of the ladies at the bikini contest will be out on the pontoon.
See how it works. Well, let's get back to our guest, Mike Heinen. Anyway,
back to the community.
Mike and a couple other couples, and they took their kids out west. And they went through Nebraska. I don't know how you get out to Wyoming. Ended up in Wyoming. They went to Mount Rushmore and all those other kind of places as well. But one of Mike's highlights, because this is the Ticket Outdoors, was prairie dog hunting. Mm-hmm. Right, Mike?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Now this is the first time you actually had what kind of weapon were you using? I know you got that from Lakes Trading Company in Forest Lake. What kind of gun was it?
It was a Precision Firearms 5.56 223. AR.
Yeah, a 223 AR. Yeah, it's a
sniper prairie dog hunting gun.
Just the right caliber.
Sniper.
I mean, it's a 22 caliber bullet that will shoot flat, probably at about 300 yards, is my guess.
Yeah. Well, we were shooting out at probably averaging 100 to 200 yards, I suppose, but there was a lot of shots out at that 400 or 500 yards as well, where you don't get them the first time, but you just kind of follow your dirt spray around.
Watch where that dirt hits. And prairie dogs are a bit oblivious out there. Even if they hear a whiz, that makes them a little more curious. They might duck down, but give them 1,000, 1,002, they'll be right back up to look around, and then you just drop that scope down a little bit if you need to. Mike, when I was growing up in South Dakota, my dad bought a couple of 100 acres of pasture land, and it had been nothing but pasture land since the glaciers cleared out of here 150,000 years ago, and he decided that's going to be farmland. And it's nothing but rocks and prairie dogs, and we picked every rock, and we cleared out the prairie dogs, and that was a lot of fun. Farmers used to go around and poison prairie dogs back then. My dad was a bit old school. He just came home with about 3 cases of 22 longs and said, we're just going to sit out in the back of the pickup and shoot prairie dogs all day. And it was a memorable couple of summers that we did that, one in particular out there. But just a heck of a lot of fun to get out there and hunt those prairie dogs.
Yeah, they sure are. I've never seen an animal flip and fly away from where you shot them so easily. You get them in the guts, and boy, they just zip about 10 feet away from where they were.
Yeah, right. They do.
Mike, for our listeners who are dialed in right now, we got Mike Heinen on, who's just went on an adventure out in Wyoming shooting prairie dogs. For our listeners, Mike, how do you find land to go shoot prairie dogs? I mean, did you just show up to Wyoming and start knocking on doors, or how do you research that?
Yeah, good question.
You know, a good friend of mine, Alan, had been out there earlier this year, and he's been out years before, and he's met a couple of local guys out there that let him go hunt their areas. Apparently, the holes that they dig created a problem for all the cattle that are out grazing, breaking ankles, that sort of thing. So we were on some property like that, and then there is some plenty of public land out there that you can hunt as well.
Yeah, they are a nuisance as far as, I mean, if you have a cattle pasture or something like that, certainly if it's something you want to farm, and they dig quite a network. And, I mean, it's almost unusable when they get these prairie dog colonies. And these colonies just grow year after year. I mean, they're little mammals. They're like rabbits or rats or whatever that reproduce so quickly and so well. And I mean, even if you have coyotes in the area or fox in the area, prairie dog, they can take over several acres of land. Back in the day, they'd have these big prairie dog compounds that we would call them.
God made no mistakes. Why did he make prairie dogs? What good are they?
For shooting. And it's a predator out in the prairie. You know, you don't have a lot of predators. Remember, we brought the pheasant here. We brought the grouse here. Yeah, there's some prairie chickens and partridge or whatever. Right. But most of those birds that predators feed on, we brought over here. Prior to that, it was the prairie dog. I mean, was a primary, a food source for coyotes and fox.
Are they any good to eat?
I never ate a prairie dog.
Smoke it, right?
I mean, it's such a little piece of meat.
The plague?
Well, there was, because they are a varmint, they used to talk about them carrying disease and that sort of thing. I never experienced it. We didn't worry about it, them giving anything to our cattle or to us. But, the plague was carried by a flea on the backs of rats. So I suppose because it was a varmint, maybe in its day, if it had that particular flea. But I don't think that was a problem in the Midwest.
So is there any, Mike, or Zepp, is there any type of land structure you're looking for? You pretty much just glass in the field and you see them popping up and you pull the truck over and then it's time.
We'll go for holes.
Yeah, go for holes. You're looking for hilltops, a prairie hilltops. You know how kind of prairie rolls a little bit? Right. Look for the higher ground. Obviously, that's what they're going to build into. They want to stay off the lower ground. But we would look towards rocky or hilltops. And when I say hilltops, I mean small little hills out in the prairie.
Hey, Mike, when you started this process and you got this sniper rifle that you have, how do you go about that? Do you have to wear anything special? Do you put a bush on your head like Bill Murray in Caddyshack or something?
Not at 400 yards.
No, you really don't. We set up a table and a tripod and just turned the radio on and went to town.
Yeah, we used to sit in the back of the pickup, and we didn't. You're right. You could turn on the tunes and just go to town. Away you go.
Did anybody else in your family have a chance to shoot?
You know what? The kids and the girls stayed back. It was Alan and Mike and myself. We just ran out there for a couple of hours quick, and they did a little touring in town. So we were going to stop again on the way down to Colorado, but we didn't. We just kept on trucking through. But it was a lot of fun for the couple hours we were out there. I probably went through, 300, 400, 500 rounds worth of ammo, and shot 15 prairie dogs.
See any muleys or antelope out that way while you were out trucking around?
You know what? There was a herd of antler pronghorns out there, right in the same field we were shooting prairie dogs. So it was kind of fun to be able to scope them a little bit at the same time. And we saw all kinds of muleys. We saw some elk down in Colorado.
Oh, nice! Yeah.
Moose. It was a lot of fun. It was my first experience. Traveling around like that in the Rockies, and I had a great time out there. So,
well, Mike, you did a great job. That's it. We're out of time. Just flies by, doesn't it?
It sure does.
All right, Mike. Thanks for taking some time with us, buddy. And what a exciting, fun trip.
Take care, guys.
Hey, Mike,
don't tell me I want to go fishing.
No,
all right, we'll do it, buddy.
That's his payment for being our guest. Gets a fishing.
Mike,
trip.
Don't hang up. I'll talk to you during the break. Okay, don't hang up.
Sounds good.
All right.
We're coming back with Bill Lebansky. He's going to be a big old captain duck hunting coming up on Ticket Outdoors.
Ticket Outdoors on 105 The Ticket. The Saturday night game of the week, St. Paul's Saints baseball on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
Charging hard, he leaves his feet in time to make the catch.
Our broadcast started with Live from Lowertown with Pete Wagner and Sean Aronson. We talk Saints, baseball, and more starting at 5 p.m. Then the Saints pregame show starts at 6:45 p.m., followed by play-by-play from Sean.
Drilled high and deep left field, well hit, way back, goodbye!
Every Saturday Saints home game on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
It's always hunting season at Mills Fleet Farm. The Wild Game Innovations Cloak 7 Trail Camera Combo is on sale, $79.99. Pearson treats make a great snack. Get 10 for just $6. Keep water soft with Diamond Crystal Zeo tabs. 40 pounds, just $4.49. Gear up for school with the Via Athletic Shoes for the entire family. They're 25% off. Yep, it's time. Back to school time at Mills Fleet Farm.
Midsummer in Minnesota means one thing: being out in the water to enjoy the beautiful weather and 10,000 lakes with our family and friends. This is Boomer with the Ticket Outdoors, and my friends and family have been fortunate enough to spend awesome time on the water with my T-Pro 195. What a perfect fishing boat made right here in Minnesota. This boat is made for the serious fishermen and comfortable enough for the whole family. If you want to learn more about the T-Pro series of boats and the whole lineup from Alumacraft Boats, visit alumacraft.com, and thanks for listening to the Ticket Outdoors.
The Ticket Outdoors is proud to be a partner with Lakes Trading Company. Why? Because they kick. That's why. Guns to buy, guns to shoot, guns to rent, and the best prices on ammo around. We love Lakes Trading Company because they eat, sleep, and breathe guns just like us. Looking to get a permit to carry class or renew your old permit? Don't be disappointed by a cut-rate instructor. Lakes Trading Company has top-notch instructors and on-site range and meals provided. Lakes Trading Company, off 8th Street in Forest Lake, or online at lakestradingco.com.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
Yeah, boys, we're back.
Stories just happened.
Isn't it? Hey, Boomer, we should, let's thank our sponsors here.
Yeah, let's give a big shout out to the boys and girls down in St. Peter, Minnesota, Alumacraft, the best aluminum boat made here in Minnesota. Thank you for being a proud sponsor for the Ticket Outdoors. And if you need to sight in that gun or you need to get another AR-22 like Mike Heinen to go shoot some prairie dogs out in Wyoming, go visit our friends at Lakes Trading Company. And let's not forget about the boys and girls at Custom Truck and Accessories. If you need to pip out that truck for hunting or fishing season, go up there and tell them the boys from Ticket Outdoors said hello.
How's the tread looking? New tires before hitting out on your next road trip. Fleet Farm carries all the best brands: Michelin, BF Goodrich, Cooper, Roadrunner, and many more. TicketOutdoors.com. You can stream us there, find the podcast, all that good jazz. Labansky, are you around, buddy?
Yes, I am, sir. How's it going?
Yeah, trucking right along, man.
Hang on. I don't see this guy's name on the sheet. Who the hell is this guy?
This is Wild Bill Labansky. Actually, we're going to have to start calling him Captain.
The guy from Holton, Wisconsin?
Oh, I better salute
I know
him.
that man.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
He's a die-hard Viking fan, too. The only one that lives there in Wisconsin.
Easy there, Boomer. Hey, I heard that the Vikings are to save about $7 million on their new stadium. They don't have to build a trophy case.
That's good. Hey, Bill, you heard about the Washington Red. This is old by now, but the Washington Redskins. Of course, all the controversy about the names, politically correct and all that. So the owner of the Washington Redskins, because of all the negative publicity, has finally agreed to change the name. He's just going to call them the Redskins.
Oh, jeez.
Come on, that's funny.
That is funny.
That is funny. For our listeners out there, we have a special guest from Wisconsin, Wild Bill Labansky. He's a Here's My Gear pro. He's also a duck guiding, fish guiding guru out there in Wisconsin. Zepp and I last year had the opportunity to go chase some canvasbacks with him, and we have him on the air to talk about a couple things. One is his journey to be a captain so he can fish and hunt the federal waters of the Mississippi and tool people around. And then duck season isn't too far away. I know we don't have early teal season here in Minnesota, but it is coming up in Wisconsin on September 1st. Plus, in Minnesota, we got an intensive harvest goose season not too far around the corner. So, Bill, what's going on with you getting a captain's license?
Not a whole lot. It's been an extremely long and hard journey, but I'm proud to say that I can actually my credentials are through, and I can say that I'm officially Captain Bill Labansky. And it was a journey all in itself. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to get to where to be able to be called the captain, and a lot of book work and Just a lot of fun with the federal government.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. There's an oxymoron for you. Bill, explain to everybody what a captain is, because I'll be honest with you, for years, when I was a younger guy, I thought that was just something you guys called yourselves when you bought a boat or something, or when you became a guide. But it's an official process. And talk about just, I mean, what that means a little bit.
Well, I'm at the bottom level entry right now. I'm what they call a 6-pack OUPV guide, which means that I can run up to 6 people, 6 paying clients, which majority of your hunting and fishing guides have. And then you can jump up to what they call the 50-ton and the 100-ton masters, and then you go into offshore. Each being said, like I said, right now I can run up to 6 paying clients. When you go to the 50-ton, it's how much, when you go 50 and 100-ton, it's how much gross water it produces.
Yeah.
And if I get to the point where I'm at 100-ton masters, I can run anything you can possibly think of in the U.S.
This is a federal.
Barges, party boats, all that fun stuff.
This is federal.
Yes, it has to be federal waterways. If you're not on federal waterways, you don't need one.
Right.
But there's a lot more federal waterways than people actually believe there is.
So, Bill, for our listeners there, you listed off some real technical abbreviations there, which I'd fail this class miserably. I can't remember what you just said. It's way above
6-pack. I know.
I heard 6-pack, but Bill, tell our listeners about what kind of testing, classroom work, hours on the water, what goes into being the entry-level captain that you're about to be?
And whose paper did you cheat off of?
I had it wrote on my arm the whole time. It pretty much basically breaks down to you have to have so many days on the water. I'm actually qualified to run on the Great Lakes, so I have to have so many days. And I believe it's 200-plus days in the last 3 years and 50 days on the Great Lakes. You have to take your class, which I took my class through Explorer's Guide LLC. They're great, probably one of the best that I've found around as far as pass rate. Physical, you have to pass your TWIT card, which is basically your background check to get in and out of your ports. Just pretty much a lot of time on the water, and the classroom time's the biggest. That was the biggest thing for me, was the classroom time.
So, Bill, we're talking for our listeners who just dialed into the Ticket Outdoors, and don't forget to follow us at facebook.com/the Ticket Outdoors. Bill recently is going to become a captain on federal waters. So, Bill, you said it took you about 3 years to spend 200-plus days on the water. You had to do some classroom work. So, for you to become this entry-level captain, is your guidance to our listeners, this is like a 3-year process?
No, you could actually dial it down to about a year. You just have to go back. You have to have documentation of you being on the water, either in your own boat or in somebody else's boat for the last 3 years. For me, if you really wanted to dial it down, you could do it within a year. It took me probably about a year and a half. But then again, I did a lot of hunting and fishing through school, so I didn't have to quick either.
Amen, brother.
Hey, Bill, so there's a lot of book work involved, obviously, and there's a lot of time and a lot of hours in the water, but there's nobody actually sitting watching you control a boat and testing you how you maneuver the boat on the water?
No, that is your boat time is your boat time. You document your own boat time. That all comes down to the testing. You take all your book work and classroom testing through that, and all your boat control and everything is through the testing paperwork-wise.
So, Bill, for rough math, I know you probably don't have it on the back of your hand, or maybe you do. For our listeners who are interested in becoming this entry-level captain, how much does it cost? I mean, if you think of all the time that you put into it, rough math in dollars, how much does it cost to get your captain's license?
If you're in the neighborhood where you don't have to travel and stay too far, which there's some classes in the cities and over in Appleton, around the area, roughly around $1,500 when you're all said and done.
All right, Bill, let me ask you this then. Why do this? How does Bill Lubanski benefit, and how is this going to benefit your clients?
It benefits me in the fact of when I'm on federal waters, I have to have it legally. But it also benefits me in the fact of I've taken all the training. I've taken all the safety training. I forget that I forgive myself for not mentioning you have to have first aid and CPR training. So not only that is if you come out with me, I'm trading in first aid, CPR if something would happen to happen.
And you have to know how to make a good pot of coffee.
That's right.
Yeah, I do.
I know, yeah, you're not bad. You passed that last year.
Hey, Bill, you talked about, this is all federal waters. Give us some examples of some federal waters that we may not think are federal waters.
Well, obviously the Mississippi, the St. Croix, stuff like that. There happens to be one little one that a few of you listeners might know of over here in Wisconsin called Cedar Lake. It's only like 1,300 acres.
Yeah.
Mile by 2 miles. That is federal water.
That's federal water?
Wow.
And the classification of federal water is it has to touch the Mississippi, which Cedar Lake runs into Cedar Creek, into Apple River, into the St. Croix, into the Mississippi, into the Gulf. So it touches the Gulf, and it has to be used at some point in time in its life for a federal purpose, whether they floated logs down it or on Cedar Lake they used to commercially fish carp on it.
Hey, guys, let's take a break here and come back with Bill. I want to talk about, getting a boat and how he turns this into, a business for himself. We come back, Bill Lubanski, new captain.
Listen to the Jim Rome Show weekdays at 11 a.m. on Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
From pro to college to high school, we've got it all covered.
I would trade him. The career arc intersecting with one's prime, blah, blah, blahs. The rest of the roster ready to win when your star player is still in that window.
Passionate sports talk on your sports station. 105 The Ticket.
Midsummer in Minnesota means one thing, being out in the water to enjoy the beautiful weather and 10,000 lakes with our family and friends. This is Boomer with the Ticket Outdoors, and my friends and family have been fortunate enough to spend awesome time on the water with my T-Pro 195. What a perfect fishing boat made right here in Minnesota. This boat is made for the serious fishermen and comfortable enough for the whole family. If you want to learn more about the T-Pro series of boats and the whole lineup from Alumacraft Boats, visit alumacraft.com, and thanks for listening to the Ticket Outdoors.
It's always hunting season at Mills Fleet Farm. The Wild Game Innovations Cloak 7 Trail Camera Combo is on sale, $79.99. Pearson Treats make a great snack. Get 10 for just $6. Keep waters soft with Diamond Crystal Zeo tabs. 40 pounds, just $4.49. Gear up for school with the Via athletic shoes for the entire family. They're 25% off. Yep, it's time. Back to school time at Mills Fleet Farm.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
We're back. We rerun Sunday mornings, this very same program on this very same frequency from 6 to 8. You can catch the podcast the next day or two on 105theticket.com. Bill Lubanski, the latest big federal captain. Does that come? Do you get a hat with that?
No, but I'm going to buy one.
Yeah, you better buy one.
I was just thinking, I wasn't in the studio when we broke out of the commercial here listening to Brian Zepp, and I'm thinking, boy, Brian Zepp, if you didn't have this voice, you'd be doing roofing with the other illegal immigrants or something.
Probably.
You have one hell of a voice, man. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you, Mom, for the voice, by the way, or I would have had to finish college or something. I don't know. I'd still be in the Army, probably.
Yeah. So, Bill, that captain hat you're going to get, is it going to be Vikings colors?
Absolutely not.
So now, Bill, let's talk a little bit about duck hunting. We've been talking fishing here for a few months in the state of Minnesota, and I love to do it in the Alumacraft. But you got a new duck dog, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I got Havoc. He's a British Lab. He's 7 months old right now. He's just he's a Spitfire, and he's just an absolute pride of mine. He's coming along really nice.
So you'll have him ready to go for the 2016 season?
No, he's going to hunt this year.
Is he going to hunt this year?
Oh, he's going to hunt this year. He'll be in the.
He's going to be a puppy.
Yep, and I'm ready for that. And you come join me. I'll be probably throwing that captain's hat a couple of days.
Hey, Bill, where did you get the dog's name is Havoc, right? Which is a cool name. Where did you get the lab? Because I've read up on these British labs, and they're wonderful, wonderful dogs. The discipline and the training that goes into their lives is really something.
I got him from a breeder out in New London called Diamond J British Labs.
Mm-hmm.
He is and it was a new. I've dealt with American Labs my entire life, and going to this British lab breed, they're just a little bit softer, and he's the biggest loving baby you've ever seen, and listens like a dream. I'll never buy a dog from anybody else.
No, they're disciplined, that's for sure.
Outstanding. Well, we were talking a little bit off the air, Captain Bill Lebansky. Do I always have to call you Captain? You know I won't much off the air, but...
yes, Jeff, you do.
Cappy. Well, that's something else. Captain Bill Lebansky. Hey, so we're talking ducks here a little bit. Now, I've read the Federal Report. We talked about it on the show. Looks like a big hatch, going to be a good migration for us this year. Of course, you guys got the early teal over in Wisconsin. We can't have that here in Minnesota because we're protecting the teal.
Right.
In Minnesota.
We don't want to blow them all out, right?
Right, exactly. But they get it over in Wisconsin, and somehow the teal all managed to survive till the next migration. But anyway, you guys get the early teal over there. What are you hearing about the ducks? It's going to be a good migration.
It's going to be. The duck numbers are the highest hatch in a very, very long time. So I'm looking very, very forward to it. Their early teal season is just going to be a blast. I love it.
And geese they're talking about the biggest population of goose in our lifetime.
I hear that too. And being around the cities, we get a lot of over here. I'm not too far across the border in Wisconsin, so we get a lot of your guys' resident geese coming over here to feed. So you guys just keep
sending them over.
Yeah, just keep sending them over. We'll keep knocking them down.
That's an expensive license to come over there and get, but I do like getting over on your side of the border and river and doing some hunting over there.
Yeah, it's a blast, and vice versa. I've got some spots in Minnesota that I like coming over there too, and it's a good mesh back and forth. Wisconsin, Minnesota's got the agreement where it's the same each way as far as out of state, both ways. So we jump across both ways.
You were talking about some limit changes over there this fall in Wisconsin.
Yeah, last year they changed the possession limit from double your daily bag limit to triple. So now early teal season, you can shoot 6 teal. You can actually legally have 18 teal in your freezer, which is kind of nice if you come with us on a 2-day trip. Then you still got room that, if you take those 12 home, put them in your freezer, you still got room to go out on Monday or Tuesday or the next Saturday and knock a couple more down and not be over your limit.
So you guys will be guiding teal hunts?
Yes.
So, Bill, I want to ask you about teal hunting a little bit because I used to do it down in Missouri. We had an early teal season down there in September, and it was a lot of fun. Controversial, but they're the damnest ducks to try to call in, to try to decoy.
That early shoot, that first light could be a little tricky, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if I'd trust my eyes.
Yeah, mine either. But Bill, what kind of strategy are you guys going to use for early teal season in Wisconsin come September 1?
To be honest with you, I don't really, as far as calling teal that's kind of minute. I mean, I'll pick up the mallard call here and there, and you can kind of simulate a teal a little bit close to a mallard or just kind of bring them up. The biggest thing I can tell people is take their books and really, really study the difference between a teal and a henwood duck. Those are going to be your two biggest controversial ducks that are going to look the same. Yes, I mean, just make sure they got the blue on that wing when you squeeze the trigger. That's the biggest thing. We'll just hunt a lot of rice. We'll put a lot of numbers out, hunt a lot of rice, a lot of spinning decoys.
I think with an early teal, too, unless you really know what you're doing. My first time out, I would definitely want to be with Captain Lebansky and their crew over there and wait till they say shoot them up.
Absolutely. You've been in the boat, Zep. When they're in the hole, we'll flip the lid and kill them, and you kill them.
Yeah.
So, Bill, will you be chasing those teal then on the Mississippi? And how does that work with it being a border? Is it border Minnesota, or how does that work?
Yes, we are actually, where we hunt is border Minnesota, and we will be chasing them. And the way the law reads, it's different than fishing. It's the center of the channel. So you can run off the center of the Riverway channel, the center towards Wisconsin, we can hunt. The center the other way towards Minnesota, we cannot. So we'll hunt all the backwaters of the Wisconsin from the center of the channel over.
So, stupid question here, but let me, how do you determine the center? Are you using electronics, or are you using a visual marker, or how does that work on the Mississippi?
You can go both. We kind of run off. We hunt far enough off the channel, especially teal hunting. You don't really have to worry about it. So you can determine it by electronics, or we kind of run more off just basic, this is the center of the channel, there's a channel marker, here's a channel marker, there's the center. And like I said, we're so far off the center of the channel when we're teal hunting, it doesn't really matter.
Bill, does the DNR give you any leeway there? I mean, I'm serious. I'm serious. That's a serious question because you
guys are just a little over.
Yeah, no, but do they give you any leeway? Have you ever been stopped and questioned about that?
No, we normally don't hunt the channel for the most part. It's very, very seldom we're even close to the channel, and when we are, we're 300-400 yards off it.
Okay, so it's not like driving a car. I can go 7 miles. I can go 7 miles over, right?
No, I've never had the DNR on that one yet. There's true.
So, Bill, one thing, if I remember correctly, when Zepp and I were out there fishing off of or hunting off of pool 4 or 5, I can't remember exactly, but when you guide on the Mississippi or those federal waters, Zepp, remember don't you have to report in the number of ducks you shoot every day?
Yes, we do. We have to keep absolute track of every number we shoot, and if we shot 23 for the day, we have to keep track of 15 were mallards and 4 were cans and 3 were teal and 4 wood ducks.
Wow,
and so forth.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's they don't play around, do they?
No, they even check for plugs and guns.
Oh yeah, they
I forgot that's last year's story
Bill,
about Zepp.
Moving on, what kind of shot do you guys use for teal?
Teal, I would go 4-shot. Steel, 4 you can get away with 5. It isn't like the old lead where you could get away with 7 or 8-shot, which used to be, a lot of fun back in the day when you could shoot lead. But now you got to shoot steel. You got to drop down a little bit. I'd shoot 4. Occasionally, I will go to 5 just for the fact they come through in such big numbers and they're moving so quick. But when you go to the 5 or 6-shot, you have to be quick on them. If you happen to wing one, you got to be real quick on them when they hit the water and finish them off so they don't get back into the weeds on you.
What kind of choke do you recommend for our listeners to bring if they're going to go on a teal hunt with you?
Modified,
huh?
When do you guys start? When is the early teal in Wisconsin?
This year to September 1 to September 7.
When do you guys get out? When do you guys get out and start scouting for that migration? Guys, that's so early. It's weird to think about ducks moving on September 1. But are you seeing them start to move in late August?
Yeah, we're starting to see them move already.
Really?
We'll start making little trips around now, and you'll pick up the hens with the ducklings, and you just kind of pick out the areas where you're seeing numbers here and there, and then you just kind of keep them in the back of your head. And then we really won't honestly start getting serious about where we're going to set up until probably the day before. Because those birds can move so much in such a quick time.
So, Bill, those teal that you're scouting for, that you're going to be hunting on the Mississippi there on the Wisconsin side by pool 4 or 5, are those resident birds, or are those birds migrating from somewhere so you can look at a migration map online, or how do you go about it?
Those right now, these are all resident birds.
Yeah, I was going to... Oh, no, go ahead, Bill. I was going to... Well, while I jumped in here, I was going to say the main migration on teal from the south isn't over on the Wisconsin-Minnesota border. Doesn't really run over there, so they would have to be residents, I would think.
We'll run right now, obviously, it's residents because it's really, really early. About the first to second week of regular season, which is usually, we haven't quite seen the legit dates yet. The DNR hasn't released them. They're usually about the 3rd week in September on the Mississippi, and we'll get about a week to maybe 2-week run of migration teal. Last year we shot a banded teal that was banded in Canada, and we shot that teal. It was, I believe, 9 days into our regular season. So they will move through, and they will come down and move through, and we're at the very top of the Mississippi where it starts necking now.
And Bill, is the teal the toughest bird for you to hit?
Divers.
I know, Zepp, I would honestly say teal.
Yeah?
Well, besides the occasional bufflehead or goldeneye, but I can seem to... But we're also dealing into... When we start shooting divers, we're later on in the season, so I got 2 months of dialing them in.
That's true.
And that being said, anybody that's thinking about hunting this early teal season or hunting early on in the season, right now is not a bad idea to get out and go find the sporting clays and go out and shoot a couple hundred rounds and just get yourself dialed back in.
Yeah.
So, Bill, we've only got about 5 minutes left. I want to make sure that we get an opportunity to mention your guide business before we take you off air. But you talked about this early teal season. Here in Minnesota, we have the intensive goose season. Do you have the same in Wisconsin?
Yes, we do. That also starts September 1.
So you'll be able to also hunt geese and teal at the same time with you.
Yes, we do. We primarily stay in the water. We don't go in the fields for the geese, but we always have that aspect that if you got all your goose stuff and all your tags and everything else, and some come over, we'll get on the goose calls and we'll try to bring them in so you can knock them down.
I was just going to say, I know you got a business, but I have not hunted early teal before. How'd you guys do last year with early teal?
It was a little bit of a struggle. We were a little skeptical on early teal because we didn't know how it was first year. We didn't know how it was going to affect our regular season. So we did a few hunts. We didn't run it full-fledged, and we did fairly well on our hunts. And then we transformed into our regular season because we really want to we got a lot of wood ducks around. And we really want to get the people.
Yeah, woodies. All right, well, guys, we got to wrap it up here. Captain Bill Lebansky. Guess the next time I see you, I'm going to have to salute or something.
I'll see him on Deadliest Catch.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Out there bringing in the crab. Captain Lebansky, thanks for taking some time and with us on Ticket Outdoors. Let's check in with you again maybe right before early teal and see how things are looking over there.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot for having us, guys.
Take care, buddy.
Till then, happy fishing, man. Fill the coolers.
All right, thank you very much.
Ticket Outdoors on 105 The Ticket. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, only on 105 The Ticket.
3 wide, here they come. It's Kevin Harvick on the inside of this group. It's Stewart on the outside. David Reagan's in the middle of it. And so is Kurt Busch. Wow.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series returns to the Brickyard, Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Brickyard 400. Tune in Sunday, 30 p.m.
Second flag right here. Big wreck in your mirror. Big wreck in your mirror. Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Your home for NASCAR in the Twin Cities is Sports Radio 105 The Ticket.
It's always hunting season at Mills Fleet Farm. The Wild Game Innovations Cloak 7 Trail Camera Combo is on sale, $79.99. Pearson treats make a great snack. Get 10 for just $6. Keep water soft with Diamond Crystal Zeo tabs. 40 pounds, just $4.49. Gear up for school with the Via athletic shoes for the entire family. They're 25% off. Yep, it's time. Back to school time at Mills Fleet Farm.
If you love the outdoors, then you probably have a truck that you love too. Custom Truck Accessories can help protect your truck from the rigors of outdoor activities. They have custom seat covers and floor mats to protect against the mud and dirt from the field. Toppers and tonneau covers to protect your gear. If you're a truck guy, you'll appreciate the knowledge and experience of the Custom Truck Accessories crew. Visit CustomTruckAccess.com or stop by their store to see what a difference being family-owned can make for you.
This is the 105 The Ticket weather from Nature's Fury. Tonight, some clear skies, low of around 65. Tomorrow, probably a repeat of today, except maybe a tick warmer, a high of 87. Going to be sunny and nice, though. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, look at the highs in the high 80s all the way through. Not much rain in the forecast either. Maybe a scattered thunderstorm on Friday. This weather update is brought to you by Nature's Fury. You can find Nature's Fury at your local Cub Foods and select holiday stores.
Now back to Ticket Outdoors, only on Sports Radio 105, The Ticket.
All right, boys and girls, it's time for the Fishing Report. Another show just flying by. Thanks again to Mike Rates with the Clam Ice Fishing Team, but it's a Mike Rates Outdoors.
Yeah, Mike Rates Outdoors, guide, Leisure Outdoor Adventures, friend of Jiggy's, who's a friend of the show.
That's right, Leisure Outdoors. Yeah. Sean Parrish with North Shore News, but no, that's not the name of the company. It's Northern Wilds Media. Mike Heinen, also Stru's son, and Bill Lebansky, Captain Lebansky, on our guest. Now it's time for the Fishing Report. Go deep, young man.
Oh, man, I tell you, what a day. Can you see the rosy cheeks on Mark over there?
Oh, yeah. Yes, he just bent over.
Mark, you didn't believe in sunblock today, did you, brother?
No, I thought, we're only going to be out a couple hours, so no, I'm fried.
I think we did that last time I was out with Boom. The three of us were together, and we came in lobster red.
Oh, man. I tell you what a special day on the water. We had beautiful skies. We had nice wind blowing in. We had a nice little walleye chop. And, you guys, I've been talking about Lake Osakis for a couple fishing reports here because they've really had a nice bite on that lake. And, it rotates all the way around. Mille Lacs is hot, and then it's not. Leech Lake is hot, then it's not. We talked about Upper Red Lake had a really good bite, and then that kind of slowed down with the slot limits because it was getting a little over-harvested. Osakis is one of those fisheries that is only a couple hours away from the cities, northwest there near Alexandria up on 94. And we have a good friend of the show, Scott Merwin with Lake Osakis Guide Service Biz, who is a big promoter of our show as well. And Mark and I had a chance to take the Alumacraft T-Pro up there, and we wanted to target multiple species. Now, when you have beautiful blue skies like this, sometimes those walleyes can be a little ninja-like, right? And they can hide on you. And Mark and I decided to try our luck and fish for a couple hours out there and then go for some of those monster bluegills that Osakis is known for. And we got out there, and, the first thing we did is we were running some live bait rigs in the middle of the lake. We were running some of the bars. So the folks that want to go fish Osakis, there's some bars out there in the middle of the lake. Yep. We were running a live bait rig with a minnow. Yep. And with a worm. And, one of the tips that we talked about on previous shows is, if you're going to use a one hook snell, you're going to hook the minnow right in the front, and if you're going to hook a worm, you're going to hook it right in the front as well, and then you're going to blow a little air into it. And the reason is you want that worm to be as much suspended off the bottom as well from that weight that's about 2 to 3 feet in front of it. And once you get your first hit, you want to let it run for 30 seconds. And Mark, jump in. We learned
that's what's fun.
Yeah, we learned that the hard way right away.
It was really strange because you grow up walleye fishing, and as soon as you get a tap, you set the hook. So he said that's not the way you do it. We didn't even close the bail. So when you get a bite, you completely let it go and let it take it for 30 seconds.
That
which
just sounds like a long time.
I know.
Right?
You're sitting there. I'm like, I'm ready. And so
you were what? How were
strange.
you? You were what?
I'm ready.
Oh, there you go.
Norman. So I mean, I had a couple bites and I screwed it up, of course, because I've never fished like that. But it was just interesting to see new style But man, we got into some big bluegills. That was awesome.
We did. We ran. The first thing after the walleyes is we went and thought we were going to chase some of the bass on the weed line. So we ran some hornets or some deeper salmo crankbaits, and I think we had a pike within the first couple seconds. We had a nice strike there. We ran some surface lures like a bass bug, and we didn't have much, or a bass beetle. We didn't have much going on there. And so what we decided to do was go for mid-lake bluegills, pumpkin seeds, or panfish, which is kind of different, right? You think if you're going to go chase these big sunfish or whatnot, you're going to be looking in the pencil reeds and really shallow water or up against the shorelines. But what we were looking for is our guide Scott at Lake Osakis Guide Service Biz. We were looking for spots where, what would it get, 15 feet. We were looking for flats or shallows that had weeds that were about, 6 to 12 inches off the bottom, right, Mark? And we were just jigging with a bobber and a worm with a slow death hook. And we would hook that.
Which was new to me. I've never seen one of those before.
What is that?
A slow death hook is typically
stupid question.
Slow death, right? Yeah. Is typically
I've been in a relationship like that.
Yeah, with an ex, yeah. But
slow death hooker.
Welcome to the Ticket Outdoors, where the plane's crashing. But a slow death hook is typically known for spinning. If you're going to be trolling around, it's a hook that's kind of curved because it really holds the bait well. But what Scott had learned is if you're going to use a bobber in one of these hooks, he was tired of always taking the worm off if it had gotten bitten off halfway and putting a new one on for his clients. So he used these slow death hooks because you could actually maneuver the worm right down the middle of the hook, and because of the way it kind of curved, Zep, even when the fish would hit, it would stay on.
Oh, it's got like a jag in it?
Yeah, it's kind of got like a little jag.
I've seen them, I guess. I just didn't know what they were called.
Yeah, and it was kind of different because we were out in the middle of the lake looking for these flats that had these weeds. And again, most of the time when you're looking for panfish or sunfish out on Osakis, you're going to think, okay, I need to be right into the pencil reeds. I need to be right against the shoreline. But we were actually out towards the middle of the lake. And, the bite was kind of slow at first. It was a bluebird day. It had been hot out there. It had been some storms. And I think, Mark, we got to the final spot, right?
Yep, that's how it always works. We had a couple things working against us. He always goes out in the morning and late at night, but we just couldn't do that. So we went out the absolute peak of day. So that was going against us. Our transducer broke off.
So we didn't have a lot of electronics going. So thank God we popped on the old sonar phone. So Mark and I were looking at our phones to make sure where we were for water depth. But, we got to that final spot, and it talks about, never give up, right? You keep on going, you keep on going. And quite honestly, give credit to our guide, Scott, at Lake Osakis Guide Business, that he brought us to this last spot before we had to get in here for the show. And, we didn't even kind of re-rig. We had the bobber set for about 8 foot, and we had found a flat out towards the middle of maybe it was the north end. I can't remember exactly.
So we weren't actually even using the bobbers. They were just on the rig. So we were just bouncing them off the bottom, jigging, and it was just incredible. The biggest bluegills I've ever seen in my life. And, I grew up in Wisconsin, smaller lakes, and, you get hand-sized bluegills, and you'll be happy as hell. And we pulled up these bluegills. I'm like, oh my god! He's like, man, that's a small one. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, wow, my dad would kill for something like that on our lake. But
pictures, sir, were pretty out in that.
No, you weren't kidding.
Yeah.
You bet.
Yep, and one after the other. Like always happens to us. We don't catch anything all day, and then the switch turns on, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have bluegills taking line out, I mean, it is a really light tackle. We had,
and that was with night crawlers.
Yep, that was with a little bit of a night crawler. So we were using that slow death hook, and honestly, we weren't re-rigging the night crawler. For our listeners out there that think you need to put a new live bait on every time that worm is half chewed off, we weren't doing that, right?
And the advantage of that too is, there was a very short window where it was just crazy bites, and the fact that with that rig you could throw it right down again, and you didn't have to keep putting a new worm on it. I mean, I caught 5 or 6 fish with one.
You gotta love that with crappies, though. They'll hit anything.
Yeah.
When they're feeding like that.
And another trick that we had kind of learned is, this time of year that, Scott had taught us about that lake is those big gills were kind of scattered, right? And they were in the deeper parts of the water. So you could go fish the pencil reeds, you could go fish some of the shoreline, but there would be quantities of these sunfish or gills or, the technical experts out there. But they didn't have the size, and of course we were hunting to get some of these larger gills, so we went into the little deeper pockets of water. And what would happen is we would get maybe 3 or 5 of them, like boom, 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 and then you couldn't fish that memory because it seemed, Mark, once the bite died on that spot, we had to move.
Yep. Like he said, you had to move a lot. If they're not biting within the first 5 minutes, move to a different spot, and it seemed like they're spread out, so you're either on them or you're not.
Who was your guide?
Scott Merwin from Lake
Super nice.
All right, so if Scott were not there, you would not have fished where you were fishing, right?
To be honest with you, no, Stu.
Okay.
I would have been working those pencil reeds where it was about 5 foot of water where you think those sunfish would have been hiding. But, when they're scattered out this time of year and he knows that lake and you got a water surface temp, I think it was about 76, 77 degrees. Yeah. Those bigger gills were in the deeper pockets where the weeds were on the bottom.
So that reinforces...
We never would have found it.
That reinforces bringing guys like Sky. These guys, whether it's Jiggy, whether it's Tony Roach, who knows, whether it's Billy Lebansky, these guys are worth their money.
Well,
and that's all there is to it.
I mean, if you don't go out every day, right? Yeah. You have one every couple weeks, you get to go fishing. You want to be put on fish.
Yeah.
So why not ask someone that lives on the lake or whatever can take you out? It's worth the price to get on fish,
Talk about your sunnies and your bluegills. What about this? Maybe this was just an old farmer thing out in South Dakota, but that's actually when, don't laugh, we'd break out the cane poles and they'd say, don't get on the weed lines, go into the weeds. Yes. Because they're going to... Because they're the predator fish are working the weed line, so where are they going to go to hide? They're going to go deep into the weeds. Yep. And if you want to catch those panfish, get in the weeds and just fish straight down.
Yep. And you were exactly right, Zepp. When you think of those panfish and you see those pockets or schools of them on your electronics, you'll see a cluster of them, almost like a bait ball, they call it. And you think, okay, they're going to be fairly suspended. What we had learned fishing for our lake report today is those bigger gills were near the bottom. Right? Yeah. They were hiding in the bottom near these weeds, exactly to your point. Now, we did go try these pencil reeds that were 3 to 5 feet of water. I mean, we were right in the thick of it. I mean, we had the Alumacraft all over in there trying to maneuver, casting. It was like a Laurel and Hardy show between Mark and I, trying not to tangle our lines, trying to cast over the pencil reeds to drop it in a little pocket. And all we were catching is just pencil reeds. I mean, we weren't getting nothing. And so then we had to go back again to that deeper pocket. And once we were able to control that jig and get the feel, like they talk about feeling the bite. Yeah. Once we were able to feel bottom, almost like we were walleye fishing.
It was just like jigging for walleyes.
Yeah. It was just like jigging for walleyes with that slow death hook, and we would bounce the bottom, and then we would bring it up and drop it down. And I swear, once you would bring it down, you'd just see your line keep going. And how many 1 pounder? I think we got maybe 3 or 4 1 pound pumpkin seeds.
I'm not sure. I got a few of them. So
and we also
I'll measure and
we also learned that with Marky's big palms.
I know
it's really hard to make those fish look big. I'm maneuvering it behind. The gills kind of close to the camera.
No wonder you asked me to go fishing with you.
Right? Yes, because of your small hands.
Do you see on Facebook those tiny hands for pictures? They're selling those things. That was pretty good.
Yeah. That's always give it to the kid to hold.
So Mark, pound for pound, the bluegill fought as much as anything you've ever.
It was awesome. Well, it's light tackle, And I grew up hand fishing. I absolutely love it. And hooking one that size, it was a thrill. I mean, to me, that's a thrill is catching a walleye. So
yeah, big pan fish. And you're right. That's what we grew up doing. I mean, we just went out to grab fish, come home and have a little fish fry that night.
Yep.
And it sounds like you're going to have a nice one. Boomer, it's going to be 90 Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have a hot couple of weeks here, it looks like, typically end of July, early August. A lot of people, that's tough to be out on the water in that kind of weather. Fishing, especially if you're going to fish through the midday or something like that. What can you do as a fisherman? Do you just, is it go deep or fish in the morning? What about what about middays? Should you just go back and take a nap?
Nope.
The hammock,
absolutely not. Now, I'm going to say the mornings and the evenings are probably going to be your best time, right? Because of those low light conditions and those walleyes, they're going to be a little deeper as the day goes on, but they're going to be a little shallower, maybe a little more aggressive in the mornings and the evenings. But exactly what we talked about with these gills is kind of transition to a lake report for chasing the walleyes or the deep weed line bass. Is during the day, they're still going to be there, but we were looking for those deeper pockets and we were working the bars. So if you can find consecutive bars or consecutive pieces of structure with weed lines and there's, consecutivism where it's maybe 20 feet that goes down to 30 feet, you just try to drift all along them with a live bait rig with a worm. Or you can use a minnow. But just the point with that, Zepp, is those walleyes right now are going to have a lazier bite than they do in the spring and the fall. So it's still a good bite. You just got to be a little more patient. You might not get a hit as frequent. And you just got to remember that when you get that hit with that live bait rig with a worm or whatnot, or a live bait rig with a minnow, and you feel that little bump, you just can't set the hook. You got to let it run for 20 to 30 seconds. And then you're going to hook up and you're going to have a good hook set ratio. The other thing I like to do, and when you get into these dog days of summer, is run cranks all over. These fish are scattered.
With some cranks.
Explore, right? Run cranks on some of these deep weed lines. Run the weed lines. You see these pencil reed lines, and you see it's maybe 5 feet, and then there's a secondary break where it comes down to 15 to 20 feet. Run the crankbaits along there, and you're going to have fun. The other thing I like to do this time of year, throw some daredevils for those northerns.
Yeah,
right?
Get the spoons out.
Get the spoons out. This is the time of year that you want to maybe hit the shallows for the pike, right?
Pitch at about 50 yards.
But there's still a good bite to be had, and we had a blast in the Alumacraft, and I'm going to be up at Bowstring this weekend with our friends at Geiger's Trails End, and hopefully have some good walleye stories for you guys next week.
I'll be out of the river, and we'll compare stories next Wednesday at 7 o'clock
pictures.
Here on 105 The Ticket. Adam, I told you to call the show tonight to verify my story, but maybe we'll have to have him on as a quick guest. Thanks, guys, and thanks, Adam Wolski, for getting me out of the boat today. I know you're listening.
Summer fun begins at Mills Fleet Farm. For thrills on the water, jump on a full throttle Enforcer towable. On sale, $99.99. Save on Michelin tires. Buy 4, get a $70 MasterCard reward card. Bring home the good stuff for your pets. Get a $10 gift card when you buy select sizes of Science Diet dog or cat food. And stock up on Pine Tree Farm's suet cakes. They're just 69 cents each at Mills Fleet Farm.